but the mic, there it goes. All right, everybody should be able to hear us now.
We are going to call the morning workshop of the Klickitat County Board of County Commissioners to order. We apologize for anyone online. We're getting odd audio feedback today. We are going to begin with our Public Works Department update.
Good morning.
Good morning, Director Kelsey.
I have a couple items on your consent agenda, and both involve reimbursable service agreements between the county and the Wishram School District and the county and city of Goldendale. So these will allow us to do work if requested, and a separate task order would be developed if that occurs. Just gets everything ready in case it's needed in the future. We have one payment approval, and that's for Summit Environmental, and that's the removal of the asbestos from Annex 1 prior to demoing the building. We also have on our construction program, I'll let Seth talk about that as well as design. I have one. You want me to do that?
Might as well do that.
Okay, I'll do the Roosevelt grade project first. So after the winter and looking closer at the new pavement, the first 1,500 feet is failing. So we went back and we actually cored it, had a tester come out and core it and define and determine the composition of what was there to see if it was in spec, and it's not. So it will need to be replaced by the contractor. So we've notified them already. And then we've actually went back and cored, I think 33 total spots along the rest of the road, the paved surface. So the whole project's basically the red and the yellow. The red is the location where the failure occurred. We had no other issues on the rest of the project. One core was close, but it shows no sign of distress like the lower piece does. I mean, you could literally see it's not holding together in the
So,
one lane.
clarification, we've cored the yellow section and it passes. The red section is a section that
Yeah.
doesn't pass.
And is that on both sides or one lane?
Both sides, both lanes. And so we'll ask that they remove and replace that 1,500 feet. And then we'll be looking to get a warranty, an extended warranty for the remainder of the project. So we'll be working through that with the contractor. And this is all things that are allowed under our contract with the
Are
contractor.
we testing that when they're laying it down as well? Do we have our own people out there testing it?
We do, but you have to actually, have to take cores of the asphalt and then burn it and basically figure out what the actual composition of the materials are. So, and we don't do the same kind of in-depth testing that WashDOT does. So we kind of rely on the testing that we do. We've had really good luck with that, but in this case we didn't, but it showed up right away. So, so anyway, we'll be working through that with the contractor. So we're not done yet. And then they
What
have
is the normal, let's call it a warranty for, say Darlin Road? We pay somebody to come out, work on the road and fix the road. Is it when you're done writing the checks to them, the warranty's over, or is there actually a 1 year, some kind of competency that they have to live up to going forward?
I mean, if it fails, within a short period of time, I mean, your asphalt's supposed to last about 12 years or more, depending on the traffic. High traffic, maybe 12, but 20 for low volume roads. So you should get a pretty good life out of it.
So theoretically, it's either going to fail immediately or it shouldn't fail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Courtney Road, contractors moving forward with mass excavation and some embankment work on the closed section of the road. They have a little bit of time left before they can complete the embankment and some of the culvert work on the Forest Service land, as we have a closure there for a woodpecker that would have to wait for that period to end in July, I believe. They're installing culverts in a few areas, including the lower section, and they're maintaining the road after they've cut through the asphalt to put those pipes in. The anchored mesh wall was completed last week. And today we got word that they've lit the slash piles. So there might be some smoke in the area, or maybe some calls come from that. The countywide guidepost and signing project substantially complete. we'll go through and give them a punch list next week. The guardrail repair project, we're working with Frank Gurney, who was the low bidder, to get a schedule from them. We've had one more guardrail damage that we've added to that list. We're gonna see if they'll do that while they're out here. And the annual striping, we do not have a date set when that work will start, as they're waiting for paint delivery.
So for the guardrails, do we go after the insurance when somebody's car or truck hits it?
If we have an accident report that includes that information, we do. Not all of them we get reports on.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes people are able to drive away and then,
runs.
yeah, hit and runs basically, yeah.
Question on striping that doesn't have anything to do with the striping you're talking about. I noticed we did good striping out here
Yeah,
for no parking in these spots. I have not walked around the building yet. Did we put striping in front of the mailbox over there?
yes, there's no parking in front of those. Yeah. Design?
Oh, yeah, the courthouse parking lots, we're still finalizing the plans, still planning on the first or second week of June for advertisement for those parking lots to be completed.
Would you pull that mic a little closer to you for the people online?
We're working with our crews on the design of the sidewalks and the parking lot over here at Annex 1. And the Sadis Tower site, the geotech was out last week, did their drilling, and we're working through the stormwater process to get that road put in and start grading the site up there with our crews as well.
Okay, on the maintenance side, east end crews are crack sealing and like Seth said, prepping the old Annex 1 site for the parking lot. We're mowing and patching in the Cleveland, Bickleton areas this week. West side, we're patching and grading. So we still have moisture and that won't last forever, we think anyway. Eventually we'll get summer. Facility side, so we finished the parking lot in the front of the courthouse last week. And so the landscapers are coming back to finalize and put the rest of the sod in. So we'll clean up the front and haul off the rest of the fencing that's there. And things will be back to normal in front of the courthouse finally. The crews that were doing the work on the roof to install the new HVAC units came back last week and took out the old curbs and patched those locations. So they have a few minor things to do, but mostly complete.
Yeah, I was watching them on the scissor lift. 3 stories in the air, not safety belted onto the scissor lift. It's just going like this. I'm going, oh God, oh God. They came down safe. I was happy.
That's a good thing. Let's see, furniture. So the rest of our furniture are real lobby furniture and the other chairs for the locations around the public spaces should be here today and tomorrow. And that should complete all the furniture finally. Only
And they
took-
said the end of May, they meant the end of May.
They did, yeah, they made it just barely. Blinds, they still have work to do on the motorized shades and then punch list items for the rest of the building. And then there's a few minor punch list items. I think the contractor is getting pretty irritated with his subs and I'm glad because he can't close out and he's got about $1 million that we still have in retainage. So I'm sure they want that money back. HVAC units still waiting for the remaining parts so we can actually install the units at the Pioneer Center that we started last year. Still haven't got all those parts yet. And then I think they'll complete the dispatch sound insulation this week. So I think we're, yeah, so almost complete with that. And then Seth mentioned the radio site. So they drilled the site last week finally. And then they'll take that information back so they can design the foundation for the tower. That's really the critical piece up there. Other follow-up issues. So we were notified that our senior facilities maintenance tech is leaving. the county to go to work for the state. And we'd like to hire that position. And I think it's likely to be challenging. Ben has had a key role here and he will be difficult to replace.
So this is Ben leaving.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, so he's leaving. I'd like to advertise for his position and also kind of to get us through. This is our busiest time of the year to get a temporary to kind of help fill the gaps so we can use the people below Ben to not be out mowing lawns, but to take care of those things that he will have done for us.
I mean, yes.
Absolutely.
That's disappointing.
I say 2 days ago, it was,
Yeah,
kind of, I got a different answer. So
Not reversible.
everything's reversible for a price.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. Stop it. Stop giving me the look.
it's a Monday, all right?
It's Monday. It's just, it's really hard when you lose
Yeah,
A key.
talent, a key person.
yeah. Yeah, it will be tough. And then the other item on my follow-up or other issues is, so we kind of have a couple things going on with Dowsport Sewer. So if we kind of separate some of these pieces out, we really need to complete part of them. So the general sewer plan, which includes the discharge permit, those really need to move forward and just be completed. We've done all the work. We're ready to submit to DOE. That needs to occur and be finalized no matter what happens. And then the discussion about rates and the future of the system, that's a whole other process. And I'd like to separate those so we can move forward with those two pieces we've already basically accomplished. Just need to submit them and get them completed. So,
I mean, yes.
Let's get it done.
okay. Thank you. All right, that's it, unless you can think of something else.
Covered it all.
Okay,
And I have a meeting tonight downstairs. I'm using the lower conference room at 6. Before your guys leave, can they open those glass door panel things?
sure.
How are you gonna do that?
I don't know how many
Maybe.
people are showing up. I don't want to be unprepared.
Which meeting is this?
It's for Golden Dale Community Development. Group.
Okay, cool.
It's a test for future.
I did have,
Please.
but I didn't see anybody else on it. I'll forward it to other people, but it's, anytime we're doing, shoulder right away, where we're clear, cutting brush and stuff. Although it's generally in the west end that we get complaints from folks, but I did get one out in Pine Forest. Apparently we were out there last week. Where they were upset with the quality of how I'm assuming it's the normal machine that,
Yeah,
and people have expectations that we're gonna send a crew of groundskeepers out. And I try to explain to people, we have 1,300 plus miles of right of way. We just cannot do that. We do the best we can, but it's gonna be kind of ugly for a while.
it is.
Chopper goes through there. So, have we had any other, this was one, I've only received one isolated call. I didn't know if anybody else had received that.
My road got brushed a year ago, and yeah, it's like take it down and the bottom of the tree still there. And it does look a little ugly, but like you said, what are you gonna do? Have 10 guys out there, pulling all the, I'm quite tickled pink that I can not hit a deer.
Right.
So I take the good and with the bad.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's the best we can do. It's the most practical way to try to things brushed.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have we've kind of changed this, I don't know, in the last 8 to 10 years, where when we're in urban, really highly dense populated areas, we actually do rent a lift, and it's much more
Clean.
clean. Yeah, it's, we take a lot more care, but when we're trying to get the miles of road brushed back, it's, a flail mower on an articulated arm, and it just, removes everything, and it sometimes looks like it's shredded in areas. So it depends on the brush. But yeah, it's a
We
lot
can
rougher.
always let them know, you can go out there and make it look pretty yourself if you'd like to fix it up a little more.
Yeah, that's always an option too. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, they are the groundskeepers who want it to look a certain way. I had a question. So on the reimbursement agreement from planning, and this is on the DNR project down there. And we're setting up the hourly billable rates for all of the planning director, planning 1, planning 2. For that, Public Works just has an hourable billing rate, $100 minimum and $100 maximum. Is that for one position to review that, or why is that, set not by positions if you have multiple people that are reviewing it? Just trying to understand,
Yeah, we could spend a lot of time accounting for different people, or we could just set a rate. And it seemed to be, as much as we actually use it, it seemed like the most efficient way.
So it's a good happy middle ground, you think?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I just trying to understand it because, if it's Public Works and it's, an assistant engineer or something, and the hourly billing rate for Public Works is higher than it is for our planning director, somebody might ask questions.
Yeah.
But if you figure that's what the average is that you've seen over the past, then, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, because it can be from myself to Nathan, who's probably the lower end. But when we get to these larger, more complicated projects, then it's usually Jeff, myself, or Seth to spend a lot more time and effort on those.
It's still a lot cheaper than our hourly billing rates we're paying for all of our contracts. So
Yes, it is.
they should be happy. Okay, that was my only question.
Okay.
All right. Thank you,
you.
gentlemen.
Thank you for doing what you do. Go on and do more of it.
All right, thanks.
Go forth and do good work. Director King. We're a little early, but that's okay. Just have to talk a little faster still.
I was still able to keep it to 3 pages this week.
What's the font size?
I'm not telling you. Yeah, if I see you squinting. No, I actually did submit my update on Thursday on time.
Yep, looking at
And
it. And how many updates do you have to your update?
I have some written updates, but I didn't print more to share with you. Just made some notes for myself.
Okay.
So good morning again. Let's start out. We have 2 items on your consent agenda. Number 3 is the Legacy Power System Agreement for the radio system site facilities, preventative maintenance and on-call maintenance. And then number 5 on your list is the Zone 3 burn ban resolution for the west end of the county to be effective June 15th. If any questions?
What are our average dates for Zone 3?
There are, I've been asked that question in the last couple of months. There are no average dates, no set dates. The reason that I proposed the zones several years back was because prior to that, the county's burn ban was July 1st, no matter what was happening across the county in reality. So to get a more reality-based fire weather and fire conditions on the ground, burn ban instituted by the county for the departments, or excuse me, for the fire districts. It only applies to the fire districts, not the city departments. They do their own thing as municipalities. There has not been a standard. It all depends on the year and the actual conditions. And like I said, before that, it was July 1st, no matter what. So I don't have that data with me. I provided it to the Zone 3 chiefs either early in May or late in April, just because I was asked that question, and I went through every year since we put in the burn ban zones and went through it. And sometimes it was June 1st, sometimes it was June 15th, sometimes it was July 1st. It all depended on the year.
So that's why I bring it up. I mean, we're having our wettest spring that we've had in a very long time. Not one that we would ever expect to be probably wetter this late. It looks like it's potentially going to rain again this weekend. Is June 15th the new latest then that we're going to expect? I mean, would we ever expect a July 1?
So I rely on the fire chiefs for that information. I had a lot of back and forth this year, especially after the Zone 1 chiefs in East County decided May 1st. And then we saw that not really be applicable because of the weather that continued to be wet and cold. So I approached both Zone 2 and Zone 3 chiefs to rethink that. They came back with the June 1st for Zone 2 and June 15th for Zone 3, and they're sticking to that. The one thing about Zone 2, the only fire district that can set its own burn ban is Rural 7, which is surrounding Goldendale in Zone 2. And I never want to be in conflict with that. So you have one burn ban inside of another burn ban, two separate dates, basically on arbitrary political lines of the fire district versus not.
It's confusing enough for people as it is.
That's correct. But this year, it has been very hard to predict, and I need to get those recommendations from the fire chiefs about 3 weeks in advance of you signing or not this resolution, so that we can have that in time to get it to you for your agenda, then have the 2 weeks to advertise that and promote that to the community so that they know. And so when I approached them, for Zone 3, they still wanted, this was Wednesday of last week, they were still set on June 15th. And again, that's their recommendation to me, and I have to decide what to do with that and my recommendation to you.
Yeah, last thing
This
I
year.
ever want to do is go against what they say and then have something happen and
Yep, it's a fine line for us because we're not the fire experts, and the fire weather predictions from the National Weather Service and the Northwest Interagency Fire Center, haven't nailed it either because it just continues to be wetter than normal.
Right.
So
Which, I have a hard time imagining or thinking that it could be continuing to rain midway through June and we have a fire ban, so people can't even sit outside next to their little campfires.
Yep.
That's just, and then we're going to be getting calls that people are having fires when it's raining outside, just ratting on their neighbors.
that is correct. In a year like this, we will have to deal with a lot of calls asking why and what for, as well as a lot of calls to 911 reporting their neighbors, because like you said, the neighbor will be out there, there'll be mud puddles in their yard and they'll be burning a brush pile or having a campfire and not be aware of the burn ban. And so firefighters will have to go and educate them. But
And then the other issue, you look at the backside of it, a lot of people are still, like Courtney Road is still being burned right now, from our own projects, that it's finally getting dry enough that we can get it to burn. Maybe with enough gas, you might be able to get it to burn up there. And then we have to look on it on the other side is like, this is the time of the year when usually you're cleaning up all your underbrush and getting ready to burn it. And June 15th, if it's still raining, you might not have got in there with your excavator yet to pull it out. 'cause
was
it's so
for
wet.
us too. I have a burn
Zone-
pile that
yeah,
has to be burnt today and I don't think it's getting done.
Zone 2, exactly. Right here, there was smoke plumes everywhere this weekend because they were furiously trying to burn what they have left. Yes, and it is at your discretion.
I'll bring it to your house. and let
Yeah,
you
yeah,
burn it
no,
for me.
I'm in the same.
You're in two, yeah.
I'm in two.
But it is at your discretion as to what the county burn ban is. The fire chiefs make their recommendation, and I take that into consideration and make a recommendation to you as well. I've chosen in both zone 2 and zone 3 not to contradict the fire chiefs because that sets us up. But it is all within your consideration. It's up to you in the end.
Yeehaw.
I mean, I just see it that, what we're doing in this instance where it's so wet, we've got rain continuing to be on the way and it's still green, and all of zone 3. I understand zone 2, it's kind of dry out here, but we get a lot more rain over on the west side. And what we're saying is that there'll never be a July 1.
I'm not saying that.
Right.
I
It'd have to be.
I
like, how would
talked
you
as,
be,
well,
much
Yep.
more wet than this.
that's part of the weather predictions, right? And it's still 2 weeks from now. We're supposed to be in the 70s and 80s this week and then rain again this
So
weekend.
you get 80s and wind and it's dry in
Yeah.
an hour and a half.
And the problem with this year, as wet as it's already been, the grass is knee high down on the river, it's waist high. So when that does dry out, and the wind is the biggest factor because it's not the heat, it will be the wind that dries out those fine fuels first. And you get a grass fire going this year and you're gonna have a fight on your hands right
Be it
away.
until-
Yep. And that's countywide.
All right, I just wanted to have the discussion in public because.
Yeah, I agree with you that it sounds way early, but I also say I don't want the liability for going against them and then having to say whoops later.
I don't know if we truly have liability in setting the ban, the time of the ban. I mean, because you have all these campfires that are now shut off July 15th state land, but then the feds are, open all year round, up around the mountain and everywhere else. It's like,
And state parks and those things are in their parks, designated fire pits. They can do their own thing and usually don't have any campfire bans.
Is
on.
there a way we could change it that there's no slash burning, anything like that, June 15th, but said like a campfire fire ring fire for July 1? Is that a possibility?
do I still have it on here? I've been trying
To update for
over a
years now.
year to update the county's burn ban code and make it more reasonable other than just no outdoor burning except for residential barbecues are allowed. And I've not been able to find the time to make that more relevant.
Well, we're
and
hoping that as you have more employees here soon, you'll have time.
Well, I mean,
You betcha.
I was just wondering if that's
Yes.
something we could do this year though, and just say, this is a one-off, this is extremely wet.
Yep. As the county board, we can write that resolution any way you want because the ordinance is so wide open.
What do you gentlemen think?
To do it now for only one zone in a 3-zone system. I don't, that's again, your decision, but we're gonna face the complications of public confusion, no doubt. We'll get calls that saying, why can't I burn? And other people calling 911 saying my neighbor's burning. And I know there's a burn ban. Like you said, when it's still raining or there's still mud puddles in their driveway. And that's one of the original reasons I created the 3 zones and took it to the fire chiefs and got their sign off and then took it to the board and got their sign off, is because there were times when the burn ban was in place, even in July, back prior to 2015, when we had the worst fire season of our history. There were mud puddles in my driveway north of town and the burn ban was on and I had slash I needed to burn. That's frustrating for the public. I know that. But the trade-off is we do this for a 2-week notification process. And then 2 weeks from now, June 15th, there's been a number of warm days and wind and somebody irresponsibly lights up a pile and catches their grass on fire. And then it runs.
Said, I think this whole law is not for 95% of the population, it's for 5% of the population. Because if
Unfortunately, yes.
95% can burn a slash pile in August safely. Pick the right day, pick the right morning, pick the right humidity, pick the right wind, clear off all other debris, make sure you burn small piles, but 5% is enough to cause a problem.
I would submit it's more than 5% now. There's so many
I
new
was trying to be-
landowners. You're trying to be nice. I get-
Cautious, yeah.
As your emergency management director, I'll tell you the truth. There's more than 5% of the people out there that don't know how to burn outdoors responsibly right now.
Do we still have more controlled burns going on that are planned, whether by Mount Adams Resource Stewards or the Forest Service or anything?
Not that any of them have made me aware of.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they've gotten
the-
to the point yet.
Yeah, the refuge did theirs a couple weeks ago.
Okay,
And the US Forest Service hasn't notified me because usually they do their prescribed burns in the Courtney Road area in the spring. And sometimes it's after our burn ban, sometimes it's before. We have no control over that.
Right.
But I don't have any prescribed burn plans on my desk right now.
Okay.
Because we track those.
just wanted to double check.
To me, it's just this late in the game.
We can't make the change.
I don't know that I like the idea of change.
Yeah.
We're so short.
Like
notice and
I'm
lack of
certainly
education.
sympathetic and I totally get it as far as, because I think this is an exceptional year as
Yeah.
far as and I agree with Commissioner Anderson that if it not this year, never, it's just not, we're never going to see that.
And I know that.
And I think part of that is on purpose. I think we are super cautious now because number one, there are more people. And there are, in the old days, most folks were responsible and they knew when and not, whether there was a burn man. I mean, I stopped burning many years way before the
Before
ban
the
because
burn
it
ban.
was like, I don't care if it's legal, it's stupid.
It's still on me.
It's still on me if and so I get that. And I'm uncomfortable maybe second guessing the fire chiefs. This is their area of expertise, whether I think they're being pretty cautious, maybe too cautious, but
And I believe it was a difficult decision for them and it's a trade-off because putting this burn ban in while it's still wet enough to burn technically, maybe, is going to increase their call volume and burn out their volunteers, right? So they have to weigh that as well as the conditions because they're going to get those nuisance calls. And there'll be smoke investigations every time somebody starts up a big diesel engine and a puff of white smoke goes up, right?
Right.
As soon as the burn ban goes in. So, yeah, I trust they take all that into consideration and they've weighed the cost to them and their districts and their firefighters. And yes,
How do you?
the recent history is since 2015 and 2017, which lived through. That's got everybody on edge. Some people now, because of past experiences, they won't burn unless there's snow on the ground.
ground. Yeah.
Yep, that's the long time folks out there that if they have the ability, they wait till it snows. And once the snow is gone or shortly after, they stop burning.
How do the chiefs, if there's, 5 different departments or so in a district over there, how do they all come to a conclusion? Are they all sitting in the room having this discussion? Or are they all sending you their recommendation for a date and you're trying to get them all on the same date?
So prior to COVID, I reached out to them both individually and on a group email, got the back and forth started early on in the process. The secretary of KC, the Fire Chiefs Association, has helped me with that in the last 2 years. This year I took some of it back. So it's partially phone calls to each one of them, checking in, and an email that they all respond back and forth to one another. There's also other things, right? Community events, rodeos, festivals, whatever, that in each one of these communities that they may or may not want to have fires at early on in the season. So, I get them to come to a consensus as a zone. Like say, zone 2 has 8 fire chiefs in it. And they all come to a consensus with one another and make one recommendation to me. And
Did
then
you
I
get
just,
to ask for a variance, say Glenwood Rodeo Grounds for,
Yep.
you know, that's having it 3 days after this?
it's like the Lyle Cafe did
Thanks.
last month. Yeah, they put in a variance
Okay.
for the Zone 2 burn ban to have their outdoor fire or pizza cooker or whatever that
Right.
is.
Okay.
The Glenwood Rodeo Association or Ketchum Calf Rodeo Association could do the same thing.
Okay.
Although I've not gotten any indication that they're planning on it, but that event is after this burn ban would go into effect.
Well, that event's in district zone 2 anyway, isn't it?
No, it's in Zone 3.
It's not
Glenwood.
like-
No,
I know, I was just thinking Glenwood was in 2.
Uh-uh. It's
No.
Klickitat.
it's in 3. Glenwood, Trout Lake, District 3,
Okay.
Lyle. It's in District 2. Wakayakas is in District 2.
So.
Or, excuse me. Yes,
Oh, that's awesome. Good one. Good
Stone,
one.
yes.
It's
Ah,
confusing
gosh.
for folks.
He's
Yes,
just
it is.
usually correcting
But
you,
that's-
so I appreciate you correcting him.
That's why in the beginning, when we set this up, we did the zones instead of districts or anything else. Yeah.
I was thinking it went up through Appleton for some reason.
You,
No, and that was on the wishes of the fire chiefs as
Right.
well in each district to where the real, I mean, you have to have a line somewhere, but if you just draw it like up the Klickitat River, you split District 12, the Klickitat Fire District in 2, and nobody wants to do that.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, you've spent 15 minutes now on the first topic. Let's see you get through all 3
let's
pages.
move on.
That's not even a bullet point. Okay, no questions about the legacy agreement.
Oh, it's expensive, but no comment.
It is well worth it to keep all that stuff up and running. Okay, moving along. So good news. Radio system performance and functionality. Just to summarize, all of the microwave interference issues at Stacker and Stacker to Kaiser and Kaiser to Stacker have now been mitigated and are in the process of being resolved permanently. What we did decide to do is change our microwave frequency and move it higher into the band, get relicensed. That was a much more cost-effective way to deal with this. While at the same time, the people that were causing the interference are in the process of trying to filter out that interference. The last report I got was that they're still waiting on those filters and the power is just turned down on their transmitters. So, but that's very good news. We were able to turn West Ops at Kaiser Ridge back on because it's been turned off for a long time. Clear
Whose
back,
idea was it? To just,
turn
you
it
know,
off.
no, to just up our
Good
band.
fans.
That was a recommendation from one of our service providers.
Okay.
Radio Service Solutions said, okay, we can chase this and fight this for a lot longer and cost a lot more money. Let's just first test if there is any clear airspace, higher up in the band. And then if there is, petition the FCC for new licensing.
Do we have to get new equipment for that or was that digital?
No, just reprogramming.
Just digital, okay.
Yeah, everything that we have is computer based. Yeah. And then the county ops and the road channel is still causing some faults, very intermittent and occasionally. We believe that's somewhere between Juniper Point and the prime site. The tier 1 support techs are still looking into that, but that was an issue that came up in this 8th month process that we've been in with the microwave, and it was being masked by all the interference the microwave issue was causing. So we didn't notice it until last month, but that's good. And the all-in 2 invoices that I received for the Stacker Butte microwave interference work and resolution came in at $37,000. So we'll be looking at a supplemental for that because there's no way my maintenance budget covers that. I don't put that much fluff in anything. Maintenance side, The 2021 report is being followed up. I finally had some time to start looking at that more since it's been so long since I received that back in the fall. As Tier 1 goes around and does their annual maintenance for this year, they're going to be addressing any of the issues that was identified in that annual report last year. So Tier 1 for this year's preventative maintenance visits is going to start in June. And actually, I believe they took the opportunity, went at a site for a different reason, to start their PMs last week. And then Tier 3 will start in July. So we're getting underway.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I'm stewing on that number. I want to go back.
$37,000.
Well, is it, I mean, I know in the interests of, we got to get our system fixed. It's got to work. And I completely support that. But I often wonder, what is our ability if we have bad neighbors that are causing the problem? Why are we paying to fix it? And is that a discussion we
And
can,
why are we paying the group that owns the site, that manages it, that's
leasing it, that should be
leased?
policing that?
So when this question was brought up throughout the whole process, you asked me, right? Not wanting to push those buttons until we had a resolution and everybody had cooperated and we got this fixed. So now is the time to go back to those responsible parties, say, this is what it costs the county.
Right.
And I'm gonna talk to the prosecutor first, say, what is our, legal standing? How should this be approached? Because if we just send someone a $37,000 bill and say, this is what it cost us, pay up, that's gonna start a firestorm with our local radio stations, number one.
Right.
There's already been a serious amount of, consternation. I've been on the phone with several of them, like, why are you hassling us? Why are you turning us down? It's like, because they've put a lot of tech time into this as well, trying to coordinate with our technicians to figure out the actual cause of the problem. It's a process of elimination through the troubleshooting. So yes, now
So if you go to them
go
for
through
funding,
this.
you're talking about going to the end user, not the leaseholder of the radio tower, correct?
Yeah, it would be the actual offender, the person that has the equipment that is either malfunctioning or off frequency, whatever the case may be, they're causing that interference.
But there's also
There's-
some liability though with the group that owns it, that has the standards that were supposed to be followed. That is
When-
affecting us.
Yes, when and so that company that owns the shelter now took that shelter over from another company that is no longer in business. And so when that equipment was put into place, that's when those contractual obligations for proper installment and filtering were not followed. So like I said, I want to get with the prosecuting attorney and see what our best plan would be, because throwing good money after, or better money
Right,
after
and I
better,
understand
we're
that, but I
gonna,
don't want to necessarily just forget about it. I would like us to be briefed on, here's one end of the extreme, which is, we're gonna go after you and we're going to nothing. And we need to know the spectrum of that.
here's your
kinda
invoice,
decide.
or we're taking you to court.
Yeah, versus, good luck. But because it just bothers me that if I'm the offender and I did something and now I've caused this expense to somebody else, I should be liable for that, or at least something, not just, oh, well,
But
too
what,
bad.
but what you're telling me truly is we could have just upped our spectrum to begin with, and it would have been a licensing fee, and rather than
Yep.
$36,000, we could have instead just only spent $300 on the application or whatever it is, or 700.
It would, just that piece of it, if we had known what the interference was and known we could have mitigated in this way, I'm not gonna quote you a number on what that would have been,
But less than,
significantly less, yes. But to troubleshoot it and actually determine what the problem was and that we weren't gonna have a easy fix to that interference. Because the ones that we have identified, there's still a very intermittent, which makes it even harder to determine interference issue in that band range. It's coming from somewhere. It happens very infrequently and for very short periods of time, but it keys up our whole system. And so that's the risk to benefit ratio in all this that I've had to consider is at what level, like Kaiser's West Ops channel, do I turn it off and keep it off for months? So therefore it's not available to anybody in that area of the county for use. Or do I continue to have interference on the whole system countywide that could compromise both responder safety and public safety at any point that it's occurring at the same time we're having a significant incident and need that radio traffic? Yeah, it's
Is there something in,
not been an easy thing to,
is there something in our contract that says we are responsible if we have interference to them, meaning there may be something in their contract saying they're responsible if they have interference to us?
so in our contracts where we own the shelter and have responsibility as a county for that, yes, I include that. At Stacker Butte, we are co-located with, actually, it's a consortium out of Oregon. Mid-Columbia Fire and Rescue, ODF, and Tribal Fisheries Law Enforcement own and operate that facility, and we just sublease from them. And the interference is the one that we've been able to determine is coming from a shelter adjacent to it. It's not even the one we're in. If it was one we're in, it probably would have been a whole lot easier than having to just try and find the shelter that it's in and then drill down on that. Yes. But yes, I include all of those clauses in our own contracts. Other shelter owners do and do not. And I believe in this instance, the contracts that were left over from the previous shelter owner, not the current one, did not have that clause in there. They had, you need to do all these things to mitigate interference, but not that you are legally responsible in there. But that'll have to be part of the process to follow up. But I will say that everybody that we approached, besides, not being happy when it turned out not to be their equipment, the time and money that they spent to work with us to test that out and to take some mitigation steps, they have been cooperative, except for the one radio station that just pulled all their stuff without telling us and moved it to another shelter and turned it back on.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, so we're going long here. Burgoyne, we're hopefully finally gonna get to that. That we discovered last year, and it's got that site compromised for transmit and receive. It was part of what we've seen before where the hardware was put in substandard to the coax antenna systems, so it's gonna have to be replaced. We found that at several sites over the last few years, part of the original build. Working with Astound on the low temp alarms at Diamond Gap still, and at Flat Top for the security camera faults. Both of those are their responsibilities, and working with their technicians to get that resolved. Lease agreements, still on hold. Hopefully get to those now that some of these other things are off my plate. The radio project, you heard from Public Works, continue to work with them on the radio specific items and to make the best use of the equipment that we had that was already in stock for the Red Tail site that we did not build. We upgraded to Klickitat site instead of moving it to the Red Tail location, as well as the things that were already purchased for the Sadis site and what we have in our maintenance spares inventory to make sure that we use all of that in the most efficient and effective way to save money and still not compromise the long-term viability of our system. In this year's budget, I will be coming to you with adjusted projections for system replacement.
Oh, long
Timelines.
term, okay.
Yes, because outside of this last microwave issue, which is not our equipment, nothing in our system was failing. The performance and functionality that we've seen out of the microwave system and other radio base stations, even the page channel, which are the oldest base station radios that we have, and are no longer supported. However, we were able to secure at least 4 of those that I still have in inventory, surplus from other counties and their radio systems. And I'm being told that there's still a significant amount out there for purchase on the gray market. So the engineers are telling me we've got much more time lifetime left in some of these systems. So I'm going to adjust all of those timelines
That's good news.
as we go forward, and that will save us money in the short term. Yes.
And in the long term.
Well, yeah, but I mean, eventually there will be a forklift replacement of that page channel, which would cost us in that same price range. Yeah. I think I don't want to quote off the top of my head, but I think just the page channel replacement was in the $250,000 estimate. And especially once we replace it to the newer standard of equipment, because sometime in the future, some say sooner, some say later, but we will be forced to go digital if the FCC again restricts the bandwidth. We went from wideband to narrowband last time. In 2012 was a mandate. We got an extension and didn't go with narrowband until 2014 as a county public system. This time you can't split that band again. So it will be digital that they'll be forcing everyone to go to. And at that point, just heads up, if anybody's still here, Dave, you can smile and laugh. We won't be.
You'll pay for it though.
Yeah, he'll still be paying taxes. If we, and when, I should say, we go digital, that will again, just like when we went narrowband, will reduce the coverage of each site by about 1/3. And so we will have to install more radio sites to have the same amount of coverage as we do today.
Pump up the power.
As long as I'm just spreading out all the good news, I
Throw in a bad one in
give
there.
you a little bit, well, it feels like it's all been bad. So any questions on Satis Pass, where we are? And
Timeline still predicted to be built this year and online next year.
yep, I would be happy if late winter, early spring, that site went online. Yeah, given all the challenges with weather we had this winter, we're not nearly far ahead with the construction, as well as all the supply chain delays. I think it's going to help us on the actual radio equipment, which I have, the most control over and all the input on, is that we've got a lot of that. We're not going to have to buy a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
That the supply chain issues will affect.
Right.
The construction side of that, I won't speak to.
Not your baby.
Yeah. Okay, 911 call taking and public safety radio dispatching. Phil is not here because he's been working multiple shifts to cover. He's doing the same today. The call volumes, since the phone system updates occurred, the call volumes are there for you to see. Again, it's been many months since we've had those, so glad that they're back. Our staffing remains critical. We had another illness last week, which caused significant shift coverage again because one person had to stay home sick and is still in that status. Currently, we're down 3 positions out of the schedule, soon to be 4. We have one person going out on extended medical leave, at least by 1st of July, potentially by the middle of June, depending on that situation and her doctor's recommendations. Everybody is being very cooperative and helpful to their teammates in this process. We're filling excessive overtime shifts. And, you know, when somebody has a doctor's appointment, needs a day off. Actually, we have a wedding coming up second weekend of June, of one of our staff. And so everybody is being more than cooperative to do what they need to do to bounce their schedules around, up into including shifting from nights to days, you know, in a 24-hour turnaround, just to make sure that people get the time off that they need for the things that matter to all of us. So that's very encouraging. But it is worrisome that we're doing a lot of overtime, and we're going to continue to do a lot of overtime.
Where are we at numbers wise on the overtime? Have you punched that? I
the-
don't mind having more overtime when we're not paying regular wages, but I need to know the difference in the delta between the two.
Yeah, well, so in our situation, having two comms officers on duty all the time, if we're paying overtime, you know, time and a half to fill that position, or that position basically. So there's limited savings over another type of position that just remains open and somebody else fills those duties, right? But what we have for hard numbers, end of April, our overtime was just over $40,000. You do the math, the year-end estimate then puts that at 120,000. We had budgeted and just over 84,000 for 2022's overtime, and this is all overtime, right? Holiday overtime, because like I said, 24/7 operations, 2 people on. The CBA requires us to pay holiday overtime and so on and so forth. This isn't just shift coverage, extra shift coverage. But right now, without accounting for the next person that drops out of the schedule and brings us to 6 to cover 24/7, we're on track to be $35,650 over budget in overtime.
But theoretically,
Just-
come by fall, if you get all these people trained up to staff filled, then all of a sudden you stop using that overtime.
If I'm
If,
giving you the
right,
data
right,
that I
right.
know now, yes, we can talk about
But you're
This
looking
is,
at
this is
winter,
glass
not
half
fall.
full, this is glass half empty. I'm just trying to balance out.
if, yes, this is, I won't say this is worst case scenario, because like I said, the numbers that aren't included here is when the next person that we know is gonna have to go out on medical leave 3 months. Whenever that starts, then the overtime will increase. Our people will have to be working more extra shifts.
And we have 3 people coming on board. So we're not going to be saving money by having empty holes because there's going to be trainers.
They will be in full-time training. What we do to save money there is, instead of 12-hour shifts, which is not effective in training for learning reasons, they're on 10-hour shifts. They're doing 410s, so they won't be getting any overtime unless there's some training that we have to send them to or something that causes that. But yes, so next couple bullets coming down here, we were able to actually hire, and as of right now, I've got 3 people that have accepted our offers. Out of the 6 people that I offered the position to, 2 of them, after the verbal offer and accepting it, and then the written offer, had changed their mind and declined. 1 can't take the position for personal reasons I can't disclose right now, right? But may be able to take the position if he gets some things cleared up in the next 2 or 3 months.
Yep.
That he could work for us according to the state. But basically now, instead of having a situation where we're losing half to 2/3 in the training attrition and another quarter to a half in the first 2 years, I'm losing half upon my offer, which is a little disappointing this round, I won't lie. However, the 3 people that have accepted the position seem very promising. We're very hopeful, as well as
All
the 4th,
locals or any from outside the area?
all locals, yes. And that depends on how you define locals.
Right,
It's
right.
different for
Not Iowa.
some people. No, they're not freshly transplanted, if they are at all. Two of them start tomorrow in full-time training, 4 days in the classroom to start out with Phil. One of them starts on the 17th of June. And then, like I said, there's a fourth person that if they can come on board in the next 2 or 3 months, that is their intention. And I've left that offer on the table if it is still in the best interest of the county. And then we're still continuing to advertise for 3 positions. And as soon as we can get reasonable applications that we want to vet and anybody we want to offer a job to, we'll just keep doing that. The other problem is our ability to train. We only, in our current staffing, we only have so many trainers. And to put 2 trainees with 1 trainer on the floor, right, not the classroom part, is the least amount of training that they get, but that's not a problem. We can have as many people as we need in the classroom setting. But once you take them upstairs and start doing on-the-job training, to have 1 communications officer with 2 trainees is complicated. And with our schedule now, we're looking at having to have 1 trainee with 2 1 trainer with 2 trainees, and the other partner being a trainer also and having a trainee. So 5 people in the room and 3 trainees. We're trying to figure out if that's even a good idea. But as we progress through the stages and we're being forced to, transition people instead of just starting 6 all at one time, which would have been hard. We're going to have 3 this month, maybe another one in a couple months, if I can add more to it. And we'll have them in different stages of training and rotate them through those.
How much classroom time do they do?
All in total, we're talking at least 10 days, 10 to 12 days, depending on how we decide to structure that. And some of that we can do on site. Pre-COVID, some of it we had to send away, but now we're in a position where we have, for the most part, either they do some of it online, stuff we can't do online and we don't teach ourselves. We've been hosting the classes and having it in our facility. So then the instructors from the state come there and we invite other people from other agencies, what we started doing late last year. Yep. Anything else on those subjects? Yeah, I just again want to say that, our DEM staff is doing everything they can to make it work. And I'm very proud of them for that. On the operations and training side, we've talked about some of this. The soundproofing, this morning, it looks like to me, which I won't say from the public works side of things, but if they've got 2 more days in there, I'll be surprised. Guys have done a really good job and it looks good. And I think it's gonna be very effective. The 911 phone system update, as I mentioned, has been completed in the most part. There are some punch list items and additional outstanding things that need to be upgraded. The text to 911 project now can start moving forward. However, with our limited availability of our chief of operations due to covering shifts, he's going to do what he can. I'm going to do what I can and see how that progresses. The physical on-site security for our access system, all the criminal justice information is still in process. And again, being slowed by our availability or lack thereof. I am encouraged by the fire district's user agreements that are coming back as of last Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere in there. 9, I think we got one more in the mail since I submitted this, but there's 9 out of 15 returned already, which is unheard of.
As I say, let me know if I need another meeting.
Yeah. I will, but I'm very
Hopefully-
hopeful.
Hopefully it's fixed,
Yeah.
but yeah.
We're over halfway there, so I like it. So any questions about 911 dispatch? Okay,
Nope, we ask them as we go.
excellent. Emergency management program, still having requests, and I think I mentioned it in between something last week. North Shore Medical was the last one to ask for PPE. They asked for 2,000 surgical masks. We fulfilled that and delivered them to them. The avian flu, we're tracking that. The program coordinator is keeping an eye on it just to make sure, because we have lots of people with backyard chicken coops, and we don't want something to get started here and get out of control because somebody's not aware. Is my take on that. I myself have chickens, and we're just watching them close. So we don't need that mess here. Burn bans, discuss that. Zone 2 goes into effect tomorrow. Training and exercises, it's because of COVID and fire season last year and everything else that slowed down all the planning processes. The Cascadia subduction zone exercise, which is a national level exercise, or was planned to be, and be functional exercise, has been scaled way back to just be tabletop exercises, and only over a 1-week period, and really only 2 that we are going to be interested in and participate in, and then the after action review at the end of that week.
Is that going to be in person or is that a Zoom thing?
All Zoom. Yeah, the state's back to not doing
Yeah.
anything in person. Program grants, you can see all that there. State held us up a little bit on the 19 shush, which is our grant that's going to expire at the end of July, and we're desperately trying to get that FEMA approval through to make those purchases for unmanned aerial systems. The rest of it's pretty standard. And the state is also being slow at the new grants, so we should have already had approval, or at least been in the ending phases for the 22 shush, as well as the 22 EMPG, which we have not even gotten a notification or application workbooks for the EMPG yet. Public education, Frank and Volunteer 2 spent time at the Goldendale Home and Garden Show. Had signed up people in the emergency notification system, did preparedness, public information, and so on. Continue to do the standard releases for the burn bans. Starlink, Commissioner Anderson, you mentioned that to me last week in between somebody else's updates. We looked into that further, and thank you for that. I think that still got to flesh it out fully, but if it is what we think it is at this point, that could be a really good option for the mobile command post and give us not only coverage in more areas of the county for that vehicle and its critical need than cellular does, but also much faster and more robust system for multiple people in that vehicle.
Well, I was also thinking that if we get a fiber cut
Mhm.
up here, or the line that's going west out of here, you could just plug that right into your system, and there's enough throughput there that you could manage the whole thing.
Yes. Yeah. And like you said, anytime there's a fiber cut and we've had fiber cuts in the Willamette Valley that have taken down our internet, and then that takes out the cell systems to a degree, because at some point they come off the towers and they're going through the internet, or they're going through fiber. And so all of that goes away. We've had it happen before, and in a Cascadia earthquake event, that would all go away. So That's why we maintain the satellite phones that we do for the backup that it provides, that we would be able to use it to communicate with ourselves. There's one pre-positioned in White Salmon. Sheriff Office has one, and we have one in emergency management, just for that catastrophic need. And sometimes not so catastrophic. The system is fragile. But thank you for that.
Do you think you
recommend-
have it in your budget? I mean, it's.
Yes, actually, it'll be a cost savings because of the turn on and off. 'Cause right now, for the cellular MiFis and hotspots that we pay for, that's monthly, no matter whether you use them or not. This, you can turn on and off.
So the one thing, the secret about that though, is you have to be able to get on the internet in order to turn it on.
Correct.
So you gotta still have a phone or something that can
Yep.
log into your.
Link to a hotspot or something on your personal phone or on your county phone.
If there is traditional internet connectivity, yes.
Yeah.
So
So you were thinking
In the
about just
day-to-day-
adding this, or are you adding it for redundancy or exchanging it out for the hotspots?
at this point, unless I learn something, I'm thinking of replacing what we have.
Okay.
Right? Because the devices, the cellular devices we use in the mobile command post right now are there as a fixed thing. So that it doesn't matter, it wouldn't have to be my phone or the coordinator's phone as a hotspot and be stuck there, right?
How much is that a month with, because you're using multiple different providers, right?
Yeah, we use two for, in case one of the systems goes down.
It's a couple
Um,
$100 a month.
Yeah, exactly. And so this system would be the same price per month when it's on. The startup cost is like 500 and some dollars. So we'd be able to pay for that in 5 months. And then unless we needed it, like not catastrophic incidents, but the normal things that we deal with, wildfires, flooding, winter storms, we turn it on for a month and we pay the same price we're paying now every month for 12 months a year. So the net savings after the first 5 months starts to add up in a hurry. But I'm still working all that out.
And more throughput.
Yes, much more bandwidth. The only thing that does concern me is that level of redundancy. And like you gentlemen already, to be able to have something in the moment, if the cellular system is working, we have cell phones in the department that are both US Cellular and AT&T.
And if you have to hotspot
Yep.
at the last moment, you still got that.
That's our
redundancy.
backup to the backup.
I love it.
Yep, no, that's good.
Good planning, sir.
Thank you. And thank you for the information.
Yeah, get it before they quit providing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Slow
before
Put
they
your name on the
realize-
list for 6 months for now, anyway.
Well,
before they
you can get 'em
realize-
right now if they're.
They
for
said
the
they're
RVs.
quick, but
Yeah.
believe it when I see it.
I would also like to report that we were successfully able to hire a temporary casual administrative assistant. Was a past administrative assistant, so bringing her up to speed and training has been minimal. However, she's only available 10 hours a week because she's got a full-time job, so this is putting her at 50 a week, but she is willing because she knows the situation that we're in. And so she's been coming in 1 day a week for 10 hours a day. Actually, the first week it was for like 13 hours because we pulled her into our comms officer interviews. She's a good resource for that, having been a comms officer herself in the past. But we've got the ability to, and we were planning on hiring that person for 20 hours a week. So anything
Yeah, but
she's
10
willing.
hours of it would have been training anyway, so.
Exactly. We're gonna save money on her. She's shorter lead up time and she's will be way more efficient than somebody new.
Right.
One last thing is the EMS District 1 board meeting. I was finally, actually took the time to go to one. I haven't been to one for months, been reading their minutes and so on, but as your representative to that board, as an ex officio member of the EMS District 1 board, piqued my interest because they're having a discussion about interfacility transfer policy and updating that policy. And because it affects the 911 ambulance service availability. So anytime the hospitals request an inter-facility transfer, it takes that ambulance out of district for a number of hours, depending on where they have to go to deliver that patient. And if that interfacility transfer use gets abused in any way by the hospitals, then it makes the times in the county where we have either one or no ambulances available for the 911 call more often and last longer. So we're working together to try and fix that. And it's been an issue since the new EMS district was formed. And, the EMS district's primary goal is to provide 911 ambulance service. But the hospitals and the hospital's influence over the EMS district board has in the past and could continue to be a conflict of interest in my personal opinion.
But do they need to do it in order to pay the bills and stay afloat?
No, the EMS district, no.
Let's say the EMS doesn't want to do it. It's just, I guess I'd say potentially hospitals want to use the ambulance for shuttle service versus
Well, it's a matter of
hauling a coded patient.
when and how it gets used and or what circumstances and at what times of day and that kind of thing. If everybody can come to agreement, because it is frontline staff, right? It's the ambulance crew and the emergency department crew that are working that out in the moment. And if they're not working for everybody's best interest, then that is where the conflict comes. So if we set a good policy, there's any conflict, and this was my direction to the board and the chief of operations, set that good policy. If there's any conflict, then they get treated as individual incidents, and the people that were involved, get trained to the policy so we don't continue to have any issues.
Right.
The greater problem, and what that policy is trying to fix in small part, is the fact that we're having more and more times that we have level 0 in the county, or even one ambulance. If you've got just one ambulance and it's staged, at Avery Overlook for the whole entire county, that's problematic. So trying to figure out what they can do with the budget they have, and the chief of operations is good, and he's trying to take steps to mitigate that. They've already got a vehicle just for him so that he can respond as a paramedic with a kit if an ambulance isn't available, especially, and go out. And then if the fire district that it's in, or the city department that case is in, he can load that patient under his care into their vehicle and transport in their aid vehicle. And some districts have ambulances. They're licensed to transport, Bickleton and so on. And also another leg of that is to work with the fire districts and departments to help support their EMS response, so that if there's not an ambulance available, they're able to do more and be ready to transport. But that's putting that volunteer network, in a stressed position, because they respond to all the ambulance calls anyway, except for in the city of White Salmon and Bingen and Goldendale. They don't go to every call like the outlying fire districts EMS services do. So, but I just thought I'd let you in on a little bit of that, and that's what affects our 911 center as well. Because we've had, just in the last few weeks, we've had instances where there was no ambulance available in county. We reached out to, and this was a case in the city of White Salmon, reached out to Hood River, Skamania, and Wasco County. Nobody had any ambulances available. And at one point, the city police officer was trying to convince the lady to get in his vehicle and just go to Skyline. And she was like, I don't want to go to Skyline. I want to go to Hood River. So that all went down. She finally agreed to go to Skyline. And by that time, the District 3 aid vehicle got there, and they were able to transport her to Skyline. But yeah, it puts us all in a difficult position and it compromises the aid that is provided to people in a timely fashion. So I think that's all I have. See, I'm
Questions?
still not over time.
This is why we have you start early.
It's a good thing you started earlier.
Thank
You'd
you.
have been over. No,
That's
don't
why I
know.
show up early.
Thank you for that as well.
Good.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you,
Jeff.
gentlemen.
Good luck with your new hires.
Thank you.
Hopefully they all make it through.
I'm very encouraged. So yeah, well, I've got just a second if I may. The thing that encouraged me the most is two of them were ecstatic when I called them to give them the verbal offer and then followed up with the written offer and email. They can't stop saying how much they're excited and how happy and thankful they are for being given the opportunity, which.
Do they know what they
above and
applied
beyond-
for?
I mean, this is above and beyond, any other time I've offered the job. So
Good.
at
Well,
least
you-
two out of
you-
these three are
If I
excited.
remember right, you had one that was excited until they learned what the shift was, and then they were like, "Oh, is that
That
one
was-
that didn't accept?"
That was in the interview process.
Yeah, okay.
And we didn't offer that
Okay.
position or we didn't offer to that person. Yep, that happens.
Okay.
All right, sir. Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order, my teammates?
Now later doesn't matter.
Now and later.
Now and later. I have a quickie. I talked with Michelle with Solid Waste for an hour last week. Very good conversation. She brought it to my attention that there is I believe the name is Lucy, that is, let's call it a paid consultant for solid waste counties around the area. And I'm sure Rob wanted to be here for this, but he'll pop back in later. That she thought as we try to figure out what's going on there, what's going on in the other counties that we might want to adopt, what are we doing that we may no longer want to do? Are we doing a director? Are we doing a manager? How are we facilitating? Anyway, this consultant person is a person that comes in and gets the grasp on all of that and then provides recommendations. So my thinking is if there's board approval for that, to have Rob give them a call and, kind of feel it out. At least see what it is, get more information than what I have. To then come back with a presentation on if this is something we're interested in doing or not.
I guess with her, you need to get
More information?
more information. I'd be curious what the consultant charges.
Right. Or what it entails.
What entails and where they've done this in other places.
Yep, that's the more information
Talk
part.
to them.
Right, I'm not just saying, hey, here's 10 grand. I want to know more information, so.
I'm
If
fine
you
with
guys are
that.
game with that. All right, looks like you
Rob doesn't
go
have
ahead.
anything to do anyways, though.
He just
Um,
wanders around.
It's wandered around.
The Lucy, the consultant for the solid waste thing, to call them and get more information from them on if they've done this before, where, how does this work, blah, 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 and then come back and let us know.
Yep. All right. Anything else? All right.
Okay, are you ready for?
Unless you have anything else.
I'll wait till this afternoon. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we recess the board meeting until 1 o'clock.
I would second motion.
There's been a motion and a second to recess until 1 o'clock. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We will see everyone shortly. Being that it is 1 o'clock, we are going to call the regular business meeting of the Klickitat County Board of County Commissioners to order on May 31st, 2022. Let the record show all three commissioners are present. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the business agenda as presented.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve the business agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Don't believe we have any minutes yet.
No minutes yet. Okay. Next, we will move into citizen comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual. We will begin in person and then go online. We don't have a whole lot of people in the room today. Please make your comments as comments. If they are questions, expect that the commissioners will answer them at 1:25 to 1:30. With that, we will start in the room. No comments. All right. Is there anybody on Zoom world who would like to provide public comment? If so, please raise your hand, *6 to unmute your phone, turn your camera on, get our attention, jump up and down, whatever it takes. We're low today. Where's our 15 others? I'm not seeing anyone. 07, where'd it go? I saw something. Oh, 0796. If you would give us. your
Yeah,
name.
can you hear me? Yeah, hi, this is Lisa Evans of White Salmon. Good afternoon, County Commissioners.
It shows
I'm sure
they're
you guys have
talking.
heard about the bridge.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Hold on 1 second. Hold on, we
Okay.
can't hear you.
We can't hear you, but we are seeing you on the closed captioning.
So just
Okay.
hang on.
Okay, try now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you
Yes.
now.
Are you hearing me now? Okay. Okay, good afternoon, County Commissioners. This is Lisa Evans. I live on Anderson Road in White Salmon. I'm sure you've heard about the bridge closure that's been proposed for June 9th, 10th, and 11th of June, and that's coming up in just a few short days. I heard a lot from a lot of people. You know, I have a business. I'm one of but a few people that have a business that's going to be greatly impacted by these closures, not to mention people that have weddings or celebrations or graduations, any type of family event, or never mind any type of medical event. I'm very concerned that we are essentially being given less than 2 weeks notice. I'm in the hospitality business. My customers contacted me months in advance, and now I'm potentially having to change their plans last minute. That does not bode well for our area. I'm very concerned that, you know, that we do not seem to, for some reason, we're finding out about this last minute. We don't seem to have a seat at the table for the bridge and the development of it. I'd like to know who in Klickitat County is supposed to be our voice, or is it somebody in the state of Washington? I'd like to find out how to get a copy of the contract that does not, you know, that gives Oregon full control over the tolls and the maintenance of the bridge, thus essentially hijacking the citizens of White Salmon and Klickitat County, so we're at their mercy. I'm wondering, is this the best that we can do? Are there not other options? Could this maintenance not be done from midnight to 5 a.m.? I know that in the past, other road projects have been able to do that. And then, you know, I'd like to know if there is a plan going forward, who is going to be our voice on the Washington side to make sure that we are setting aside money for maintenance for this bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Okay, next, is there anybody else who would like to provide public comment? *6, unmute your phone, turn your camera on. Get our attention. Is that person? Maybe would you move there we go. Okay, to see, because it always goes to the top and I can't see if they're unmuted or not. It's a slow day in the neighborhood. Must be all this nice weather we're having out there, huh? Okay.
So most of the names on there are county employees.
Everybody's looking for the entertainment. Back to the room. Come on, you always got something to
She will
say.
by the time it's over. She waits till like 9:21.
Okay, we will go back to looking at our information for the next couple of minutes. Unless somebody would like to respond to Miss Evans, since we don't have anybody. Oops, sorry, that's not. We have this thing turned way up. I guess I will respond to Miss Evans. Thank you, Lisa, for your comment on the bridge. I had that sent to me, that press release sent to me before the first, and the press release was set for the first. So I ended up calling someone who serves on the bridge commit, or the Hood River, Port of Hood Rivers commissioners. I said, is this even real? Because how do we have a press release ahead of the time? And he said, yeah, it's real. And I said, okay, well, why is it not on your Facebook account? Why is it not on your website? Why am I just getting this forwarded to me? He said, well, apparently with the holiday weekend, somebody did something wrong. And I said, okay, well, as soon as you guys found out and you went out to bid, why didn't you start letting people know, giving people less than 2 weeks in advance for a 3-day closure during the beginning of the tourist season? Seems like a little bit of a missed opportunity. And he said that the abutments or the on-ramps to the bridge have been deteriorating and continuing to deteriorate. And that they're considering this an emergency, and they went out to bid on it. And this is when the company can do it. And not only that, but they're paying the contractor a bunch of extra dollars in order to get it done in 3 days rather than 5 days of full closure, which is what they wanted. I did not ask about trying to do it at night strictly, and maybe take a week of, midnight to 6 a.m.s. Thank you. That's better. That feels a lot better. And then I asked you, in terms of your question of who has any say, well, the Port of Hood River, which is run by a port commission, owns and controls the current bridge across the Hood River or across the Columbia, and we have absolutely no say. It is a completely different sandbox. I serve on the bi-state advisory group that Commissioner Sauter served on before me, and that is about building the new bridge, which will ensure that we do have say with regards to the tolling, the infrastructure, and the fees. With regards to the current bridge, the best thing that we can do if somebody has an issue is to try to talk to the Port Commission to see if anything can happen. Apparently, it can be moved if it rains. So kind of funny that if it's going to rain, your guests or whatever you have for your hospitality business can make it across the bridge. If it's dry and beautiful, then the bridge is shut down. I attempted to see, well, why don't we do this at the end of the season when we know it's still going to be dry? And I got absolutely nowhere. It sounds like the decision has already been made. But with regards to what we can do in the future, yes, I have opened those lines of communication to say we need a lot more lead time than this.
Jacob Beltran.
Oh, Jacob Bertrand. I see you're unmuted.
My apologies. That's an accident.
Well, you're unmuted. Is there any public comment?
Talk about the
Hey, you
weather.
don't want to hear what I have to say. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Thank you, Jacob. All
Thanks.
right. Is there anybody else who is interested in providing public comment to the commissioners? If so, unmute your phone, turn your video on, get our attention. Come sit here in person if you'd like. 7211.
Greg Wagner with Cease. In this month's radio interview on KLCK, Commissioner Christopher was asked about taxes from the solar. And he replied, "We are not tax assessors, not my job description." But when he was asked about the tax benefits, he said, absolutely. As they pay into the taxing system, levy rates will go from 50 cents per thousand to 45 cents per thousand. Your property tax will get lower. That's for us citizens. I'd like to know where you received the information to back up those statements, and when will our taxes go down? I know from doing some investigation that the Windy Flats wind farm over there, as you go down 97, 880 acres of property, and they paid $345 for this year in taxes. And that's similar to Lund Hill Solar Site, 320 acres, $119, 160 acres, $414. The DNR land, I think, was 400 acres, $73. So we're not getting much money from tax revenue from these wind and solar projects. So explain to me, and we don't have any jobs to show for the Lund Hill site. I'd like to know how the county is truly benefiting from wind and solar. Mr. Souter had told me that the wind brings in $10 million a year, or 30% of our income revenue from taxation, but yet there's no record of that. I'd like to know, how does wind and solar benefit our county and the citizens? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. 7211. Is there anybody else who is interested in providing public comment? *6, unmute yourself, turn your video on, raise your hand, or come up to the mic. (4901).
Good afternoon, commissioners.
Good afternoon.
I,
Is this Sherry?
this is Sherry.
Okay, sorry,
I
we were
would
getting a
like-
little echo.
Okay, hopefully let me know if there's any other issues. I would like to follow up as a taxpayer of Klickitat County to request that Klickitat County look at the tax method you are currently using on these wind farms, and as well as what Klickitat County tax method and how much will be applied to the Lund Hill project that's being installed currently, the Lund Hill Solar project that's being installed currently in Bickleton. It was approved, this project, Lund Hill, in 2019. And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been told that Klickitat County still is assessing how much you will be charging Lund Hill on its taxes. And that seems a little bit careless. I know it's been blamed on prior commissioners. However, I am publicly requesting that Klickitat County take this seriously. If our county is going to start to approve these industrial solar farms, as we know that are happening, I am requesting our county tell us how much will the county be profiting. We know that these are foreign entities or American-backed entities. I have talked before about the problems they are already having, the lawsuits they have against them and other parts of the U.S., as well as Iberdrola from Spain. You know what companies you're working with, what corporations. So if you're going to be working with these type of people in Klickitat County, at least you can do is assure our county that these projects, these corporate projects that just gain for their own, are giving us some tax money. So I would like this evaluated, and I'd like some feedback on how our county is going to be taxing, especially Lund Hill and the following solar projects, Bluebird. We found out there's a third one going to be proposed out there, including Knight Road, Carriger. How will you be taxing them? That is, you should be able to tell the county that as you move forward with these insanely large solar projects surrounding Golden Dell, which on record, I think that's disgusting to do to that city. That's not what that city's about. It's industrial solar. It could be much more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bosque. Is there anybody else who is interested in providing public comment? *6, unmute yourself, raise your hand, turn your video on. We would be happy to hear from you. I am not seeing anyone. Is there anyone of my seatmates who would like to respond to anything?
I will respond to that, but I will wait until 1:25 when they don't get to speak again afterwards.
Okay. Mr. Sauter, anything you'd like to?
Yeah, I was trying to pay attention and look on the line as far as, first, Mr. Wagner, as far as, I'm not sure where in the county tax records you're looking, but that is inaccurate information. The wind farms do pay, they don't pay $330 for Windy Flats. I was trying to find the exact number, but it's much, much, much more than that. As far as the exact number, you can actually get that from the county treasurer. If you look, I was looking on the site trying to get that. But those wind projects, same with solar, is that, and this would be to Ms. Bosquet's question about the Lund Hill. The reason any project, like if you're building a house, it doesn't actually go on the tax rolls until it is substantially complete. They come out, they do an assessment. It actually can go on when it's partially done, but they come out and it goes on the tax rolls at that point. And then when you have occupancy and it's done, they adjust the value to whatever the current market value is. These projects are the same thing. When they are under construction, when they're up and running, then they go on the assessments. And again, this is outside of my area. I would direct you to the county assessor, is really the one that should be answering this question. But as I understand it, so when those projects are completed, then they are assessed to go on the next tax roll. Because our assessments for this year were done and certified at the end of last year. And so anything that's done this year won't go on. It'll be assessed, it'll be certified, and will go on the assessment for collection of taxes in 2023. And so it's always that way. And so the solar projects are just the same way. The wind projects were at the height of when they were completed, represented about 1/3 of the tax value of the county. It's actually dropped down just because they've depreciated, but it's somewhere around 22 to 25%. And so they're paying, I think in total, and I want to say don't quote me but I know you will. So it's somewhere in around the $8 million range. All of the projects together is what they're paying. That is down from the peak as far as what they were paying, but they are still paying millions and millions of dollars of property taxes into Klickitat County. As I will expect, solar projects, as they come online and are on the tax rolls, it will be millions of dollars of tax receipts to Klickitat County.
And I'd just like to follow that up. I'm assuming, Mr. Wagner, that you're getting your numbers on that from the underlying property. Okay, so when a large corporation or a large project like this goes on the rolls, whether it's wind or solar, what you're seeing is the property tax on the dirt. You are not seeing the improvements, which is considered personal property tax. And that's where all the money comes in from. And when Commissioner Sauter is talking about 25% of the taxes, that is millions and millions of dollars. That's going to your junior taxing districts. That's not just to the county coffers. That's their total taxes to the juniors and everybody else, the state schools, everything, which again is all taxes that are used for people in the county at some point. With regards to the assessment, year questions, Ms. Bosque, are best put to the county assessor, who is another elected official, who then determines how these get assessed. And that comes from the guidance from the state. But again, I would speak with the county assessor. Is there anybody else who's interested in providing public comment to the Klickitat County Board of County Commissioners? *6, turn your mic on, turn your video on, jump up and down, get our attention. I'm not seeing it. No, not yet. No. 490. It's Ms. Bosque.
This is Sherry. Are we allowed to give you further information?
No.
Well, the county assessor has been spoken to, and they have said that currently they don't know what method they're going to use for Lund Hill. So my request was for the county to decide what method, tax method, you're going to use. And, you know, as we'll all say, it's complicated, but you divert this to the state. And it has been said by the county assessor that she could make this tax method change. She just needs help. And the county does fully know, and you know, you can correct me again if I'm wrong, that you do have the power to change the tax method from the depreciation and again, the one that gives us more revenue. And if we're bringing in 25% at $8 million for our county revenue from windmills, that's only, you know, 32,000 or million a year. We had a $56 million budget for this year. So I don't know how the wind farm's making that much money for us. But thank you. I would like you to tell the people what tax method are you going to do? The cost, the income, what are you going to use for solar? Thank you.
This is Commissioner Christopher. Since it's close to 1:25, I guess I will go. Just for clarification, the Board of Commissioners has absolutely zero input on what tax method anything in this county gets used. Zero input, zero say, period. That all goes through the assessor and the state board or the State Department of Revenue. So again, the commissioners have zero input on what tax method is used. Also, there was a comment in there that companies that we are working with, don't know that the commissioners are working with any companies. So that is a clarification problem as well. The tax methods we are using again are set by the state and the assessor. Nothing we could do about those. The thing people I think are confusing when they're looking at taxes is yes, it is just property tax, but you have a land tax and you have a personal property tax. The rancher who's leasing his land is getting one bill for his land tax that now has solar panels on it. And then the solar developer is getting a separate tax bill for their personal property that's now sitting on rancher's land. So that's the second thing you have to look at. Again, commissioners have no say on when something is assessed or when it is put on the tax rolls or how it is put on the tax rolls. That is out of our jurisdiction. With that, I guess I will leave it at that.
Did you want to reply to the 40 cents to 35 cents or whatever?
Oh, the numbers he's using, that was the same thing as Commissioner Sauter saying that he doesn't want to use a number because he will be quoted as in that's the golden number. My point when I said the comment was if they're paying 50 cents now, they will be paying 45 later as the new assessment comes online, just like the windmills did. They're going to start picking up the lion's share or some of the share of what the taxpayers are paying. That's happened in every case. It will happen again. No, I'm.
Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, let me clarify my earlier, because, and I know we have talked about this with folks, particularly, the callers that we have on today, and there seems to be either misunderstanding or, I'm sorry to say, maybe purposefully misrepresenting information for the purpose of, swaying people to a certain point of view. When I was speaking of, these are facts. What the assessed value of the county has been, what it is, and what wind projects are as part of that. That's the number I'm talking about. As far as the total number of taxes, that is when I was talking about to Klickitat County. Thank you, Commissioner Anderson, for following up on that, because I'm talking about the total that's getting paid in, not necessarily to the county general fund, but the schools, the fire districts, the library, EMS, the hospital, all of those things. And it's, if we pay property tax based on our values, and these projects represent 25% of the total value, they're going to pay about 25% of the total taxes in the county. Those are just facts. And it frustrates me when people try to confuse people by quoting numbers back and forth that they either don't understand or are knowingly trying to mislead people. And so it makes it really difficult for us to talk about numbers because they seem to then get misused. And so I think in the future, I will refrain from I guess, mentioning a number.
I have one more point of clarification. The question was raised on if solar or if windmills pay $8 million, how is that 25% of our $56 million budget? I think people need to understand that the $56 million budget has a lot of grant money in there. That's not your tax money. That's, well, I guess it kind of is. It's state money that comes back. So if, God, I hate to use the term half, because I'll be quoted on that, and then that'll be going around. But if half of that money is grant money, then only half of it is actually taxpayer money, which would make $8 million or $10 million, pretty close to 25% of that.
You're also forgetting, we also have the landfill that provides a significant amount of money to the Klickitat County coffers as well as federal grants, as well as people who apply for permits that provide. Many of our departments, or some of our departments, are self-sustaining just based on their permit fees. There's a lot of things that go into the budget, but the funny thing is that whenever the budget wants to get discussed, most people leave the room.
Yep.
And we spend months working on that next year's budget. Anything else from my seatmates? All right,
Last chance.
last chance, public comment.
I knew she'd wait till the last minute. That's why I went a little early. I figured I'd give her a couple of minutes.
I mean, you drove all the way down.
Kathy Moko, Goldendale. Two different things. The bridges. I worked for the DOT. Washington DOT takes care of the Biggs Bridge. Oregon DOT takes care of the Dalles Bridge. And the Port of Hood River owns the Hood River Bridge. And this is something I was told many years ago when they were building the Hood River Bridge. Oregon asked Washington, the commissioners, if they wanted to go halvesies, on the bridge. And they said, nope, they did not want to. So that's from what I understand from some Hood River commissioners, bridge commissioners, it's a very lucrative, bridge. So, but anyway, we had our choice a long time ago, I chance, but it isn't ours, it's theirs. The only other comment I have is that the parking lot is now finished in front of the courthouse, and Was there something going on this morning? There were all these people standing out there. It's all, anyway, it looks really super over there. And the
Probably
grass-
crying because it's finally completed. That is probably what they were doing out there.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mo.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, being that it is 1:30, we are going to close public comment for the day. Thank you all for your public comments, your questions, your concerns. As you can tell, we do listen, we do care, and we do definitely want accurate information in the public sphere. Next, we will move on to a public meeting to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation for approval of shoreline substantial development permit and shoreline conditional use permit number SH 2022-01. The applicants are the Underwood Conservation District for the Pearson Bank.
Okay, the following information, this information is for your review that was presented in front of the Planning Commission on May 31st. And you are to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation for approval of shoreline substantial development and shoreline conditional use application SH 2022-01, Pearson Bank, applicant Underwood Conservation District. They are proposing to stabilize a stream bank along Lake Creek in the Trout Lake vicinity. The board may summarily accept the Planning Commission's recommendation or hold your own public hearing if you wish to modify the decision. The board's decision will be forwarded to the Department of Ecology for final approval. That concludes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Are there any questions of staff?
No, I will say that not a question, but I think staff did a great job. I think the planning department did a great job. The planning board and the applicant did a tremendous job because it seemed like every I was dotted and every T was crossed. Very thorough, very complete, and I thank them for that.
Commissioners, Otter, anything? I would second that up. The Underwood Conservation District does a very thorough and good job. This is not the first stream bank stabilization project in the Trout Lake Valley. And from what I can see, the previous one is still holding strong. With that, I would entertain a motion.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation for approval of the shoreline substantial development permit and shoreline conditional use permit, SH 2022-01. The applicants are the Underwood Conservation District. This is for the Pearson Bank stabilization project.
I would second that.
There's been a motion and a second to adopt the Planning Commission recommendation for shoreline conditional use permit SH 2022-01. Is there any further discussion?
No, I don't want to miss out on the party. I also read, I thought it was a very complete record. I thought everybody did a great job, and I appreciated the comments that the planning commission, had about the matter, that they took it seriously. This was not, these are big deals to do these, and I think everybody gave it the consideration that it should have had. So I didn't want anybody to feel slighted.
Well, I would say, when you see applications like this, you're like, did they spend more money on the design?
And they're going to on
build
the,
it? Yeah. With that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next up, we're going to move to a public meeting to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation for approval of the shoreline substantial development permit and shoreline conditional use permit, SH 2022-02. Applicants Dan Gunkel of Peach Beach Dredging.
Okay, the applicant Dan Gunkel is proposing to dredge 2 existing boat ramps along the Columbia River in the Maryhill vicinity under shoreline substantial development permit and shoreline conditional use application SH 2022-02 Peach Beach Dredging. The board may summarily accept the Planning Commission's recommendation or hold your own public hearing if you wish to modify the decision. The board's decision will be forwarded to the Department of Ecology for final approval.
Questions of staff? Or comments?
No, other than I'll hold my, because it was done at the same time as far as the planning commission meeting was again a good, I thought there was good questions. People, took the application seriously.
I'd agree.
And it's amazing to see how much process there is that goes into dredging,
Yeah.
a boat ramp.
I was a little curious, and I'm assuming I know the answer was because in all the documents was about the timing as far as in the main stem of the river and when it was. So this dredging would have to take place if I'm remembering correctly, like next, like January or February. Is that?
Coming winter.
Yeah, this coming winter. That's what I thought. So
Very
it's very
small
tiny
and
window.
rev-
So I thought, because I was thinking, well, there was no, it's too late for this season, obviously, that it
At least
was.
during the least impact of
Right.
the fish,
Right. So it,
low water.
that's good, good forward planning as far as, or that you have to plan that far in advance for something that you want to do.
Well, it's
when it's
years.
years before
Years.
you're going to actually be able to do it. So,
it's interesting to see, it's not very often we get shoreline substantial development permits and to
We
get
got
two of
two.
them at the same
Yeah.
time is kind of interesting. With that, I'll close the discussion. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to accept the planning commission's recommendation to approve the shoreline substantial development permit and shoreline conditional use permit number SH 2022-02 applicant Dan Gungle.
I'll second the motion.
There's been a motion and a second to approve substantial development permit and shoreline conditional use permit SH 2022-02. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Denise.
All right. 2:00. Woof, we are way ahead. Nope, we got our public hearing. Yeah. We might be bumped.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, we have the public hearing to continue the close to further public comment, the decision to support the board discussion on Tuesday, May 17th, 2022 regarding the proposed amendments to the Klickitat County Environmental Ordinance number 121084 under the State's Environmental Policy Act, RCW 4321C 120, and the SEPA rules WAC 197-11904. This ordinance contains this county's SEPA procedures and policies. Okay. Staff.
Okay, so at the last hearing, the commissioners requested staff to provide a clean copy document that, based on the discussions, a clean copy and a revised flow chart for you to review to make sure that's consistent with your discussions. So including in your packet is that proposal. And if you don't have any changes, then that will be the final document.
Any discussion between my seatmates? Did everybody get a chance to go over it?
Yeah, I just would like to ask you a question just to alleviate public concern. The part in there about taking out the appeals process for administrative appeals is no longer in this document, correct?
Correct.
Oh, good enough.
Okay, questions?
No, I would just comment for my read of it. It seems the final clean copy seems consistent with the discussion the board had. I mean, it does what we agreed to, at least in my opinion.
Yes.
And that was my read as well. With that, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept Environmental Ordinance 121084 under the State Environmental Policy Act, SEPA, RCW 43.21C.120 and SEPA rules WAC 197-11-904 into our county ordinances.
Sorry, I do get an ordinance prepare, and I did get the prosecutors approved as to form, so I'm going to leave this here for you to review, and if that you're acceptable.
I think I've already got it in here.
Yeah, I sent a copy to
Yeah.
Gabby Jane this
Maybe,
morning.
maybe already did that.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Maybe just a question for my seatmate. I took it from your motion that I second that you were authorizing the adoption of the ordinance that amends per the references that you made.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, then my second stands then.
You almost confused me there, but yeah.
Any further discussions from the confused?
Yes. No, we know what we're doing. We really do. There's certain words you have to have. So,
All right, with that, all those in favor of adopting the updated ordinance 121084 as per the staff's direction, please say aye.
aye.
Aye, motion carries. Good job,
Good job.
Ms.
Thank you.
Lindblad. Thank you so much for all your hard work on this. I think everybody met in the middle.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right. Now we're still ahead.
I don't know if they're all here or you want to pay bills.
Yeah, I was
or-
gonna ask, is this everybody coming from Seek? Oh, well, why don't we just get to you guys a little ahead of time? Since this is an update and it doesn't have a time frame and you all have other things to do. Come forward. Can we get another seat up here?
Maybe another mic if that we don't have to reach in.
Potentially.
We can
And
try.
it'll shut off half the way through anyways. That would work. Hi, come on forward if you got something for us.
David, may I approach in a personal matter?
Of course.
Much ahead of schedule, are we? Oh, so if we're ahead of schedule, we might, hopefully we won't go over.
Well, we can't wait to hear about. We can't wait to hear about all the good things that Seek is doing and has been doing.
Oh, good.
No pressure. I haven't had an update in quite a while.
Well, with COVID, it's been a challenge for everybody, as you know. So thank you for inviting us to come and kind of give you a little bit of an update. The two gentlemen that are here are on our seat board. I think Vern Harpold might be not a stranger to some of you, and Jonathan Lewis as well. So anyway, and I'm Linda Williams, last time I checked. Okay, so some of you are a little bit familiar with SEEK, and it's been a while since we've been to the commissioners meeting. In fact, well, I don't even know the last time. It's been a long time. So just to give you a little bit of a history on how we came about. Back in 2006, the Northwest Area Foundation, which is the foundation that is was built by Jim Hill with Railroad. They were offering a grant for communities, and it was administered through WSU, and it was called the Horizons Project. And at that time, the grants that they were giving were $10,000 to the communities that completed the criteria. And one of the things, the communities had to come up with some projects. And at the end of the 18 months after they did the leadership and all the criteria that was needed, they received $10,000. Well, this was a little bit of a dilemma because they had to put the money with the nonprofit. And all of a sudden, the communities realized that we didn't have really a local nonprofit that we could work with. And so we had the communities that were involved, we had 9 communities. And in order to apply for the $10,000 grant, they had to be 10% poverty. And at that time, all of our communities were 10% poverty. I'm not sure where that stands today. But anyway, the communities came together and decided to form their own nonprofit. And there were a number of people that were involved in that process, but that's how SEEK came about. And they received the $10,000, and each of the communities that were involved had a community committee. Now, this kind of goes through some of the formation and that had happened, and some of the things that had been done in olden times that some of you are maybe part of those committees and had been involved in. We're still a nine-member volunteer board, and I say volunteer. 4 of the members, sadly, were still the original founders of SEEK. We've reached sort of a tipping.
Our chairwoman.
Yeah. We've reached a tipping point and maybe a little of exhaustion because, you know, after this length of time, we're hoping to kind of pass it on to some younger folks. We lost a couple of our members the last couple of years to cancer. Many of you know Brian Wanless was a lot of the face of SEEK, and we lost him. COVID has disrupted many organizations, including SEEK, and we're kind of in the process of reorganizing. Like many organizations, COVID has hit our organizational goals, and we're kind of focusing on regrouping, leadership training, and the possibility of employing some outside help. Along with that, I just kind of want to go through some of the papers that you have in front of you. It kind of talks about our history and what we're about, the projects that we've done in the past. And if you'll look at that, I think it's the second page. Our focus projects are health and safety, education, senior living, childcare, transportation, economic and community development, broadband, food security, housing, jobs, and emergency preparedness, which just pretty much covers the gamut. The next page is an application. We have a vetting process for people that apply to be either a fiscal sponsor, and then also a letter of introduction, which after they've been approved, we go through all of these things with them. That last page is not really relevant for now, but it was notes from a 2014 retreat on some of the accomplishments and things that we had been involved in, just to kind of give you an idea of the focus. And at the time this all came about, I was working for WSU on community development. And I really believe that the success of the Horizon program and also was the community leadership training that the various communities received. The gentleman to my right was a product of some of that leadership training. And I think we were talking about it before we came in here, and he agreed that it was helpful.
It made me the obnoxious community advocate that I am today.
Yes, that's true. Anyway, as I said, each of the community communities that had applied were awarded the $10,000 and under SEEK's umbrella. And we have a way of keeping track of the various communities that are involved with SEEK in the projects. It's overseen by our treasurer. At the time that we came into being, the county was still giving EDA grants. And the communities that, in olden times, when you got money in your community, you'd go to the school district or you go to the fire department and you say, can you put this money in? And there wasn't anything wrong with it then. Obviously, it came to pass that, no, you can't do that. And so, one of the SEEK's fiscal sponsorships was one of their first ones was a grant that came out of those EDA grants, which was, I think, the bleachers in Snowden, a long time ago. So also at that time, the community still had their community councils, which was really great because people didn't have to bring all their petty little things to the commissioners. They went through their community councils and so they were able to function it on a community level. But when the EDA grants stopped, that community council's purpose sort of dried up. And even though the community councils were advisory, they kept a pulse on the community activities to the county commissioners. And I'd like Vern to speak to what happened in Lyle on the community councils.
Commissioner Sauter is pretty familiar with this, but Lyle had a very active community council, and we worked with them to get our training coordinated and upgraded through the Horizon Project. And while this Horizon Project was coming to fruition, the community council kind of died. So the group Ole's took over. But then when the project was done, Ole's really didn't have any particular purpose other than just to continue to maintain the building. And there were other issues in town that would come up, and they go to Ole's and we're not really part of it. And a big kerfuffle happened, and the 2 or 3 members of the defunct community council resigned, and we were just absolutely rudderless for 2 or 3 years. And because of my experience with the leadership training and how to bring a group back together again, I went to Linda and asked her if we could get a grant to do some community training to put the community council back together again. And so I think we got a facilitator who was good at putting communities together. Everybody had to go through 5 or 6 meetings. And then we came up with bylaws, how we would vote, and reinvented our community council, a whole new set of members. And I was able to coordinate and help put this together with the help of SEEK and with my previous experience. And now, as you know, we've got a pretty active community council taking on all sorts of projects. And I think I'm the spokesman for them to you, so you hear from me all the time. And it's just been wonderful for me to be part of this Horizon Project and now part of a secondary project to show how communities can come together and work together with the Horizon and with SEEK. And part of there's these 9 board members we have. One of mine is supposed to be a liaison between SEEK and our leaders. And I'm going to try to become even more obnoxious than I have been. But hopefully just to be informative. I don't have to come here grinding axes most of the time. And I want to be kind of an example of how other communities could, because SEEK reaches out to almost every single community in the county. And we would love to be more active with any and all of them. So anyway, I'm kind of a cheerleader for SEEK.
The other thing that and Vern started trying to get the Lyle Community Council up and running is that our hope was to duplicate this in some of the other communities, because it would help us, and probably would also help the commissioners. I think one of the biggest strengths that we have with SEEK is our ability to network and partnership with other organizations. And one of the things that we realized early on is that a lot of these small organizations were duplicating and competing for money, and our thought was that with our limited resources that we have in the Gorge area, is to pool a lot of our resources so that we're not duplicating. And part of that's communicating with one another, and also at least that was one of the things that we want to get more bang for our buck for the organizations that we do have. And of course, one of our partners is McKed, and then Jonathan is involved with that. Did you want to speak to any of regards to some of the things that MCED is doing.
Okay.
It.
We are familiar with the Mid-Columbia Economic Development District. They just finished their 5-year planning to get all of the projects of the 5 counties in MCED in one packet, and that's really good. But there are oftentimes gaps in what MCED can do, what the county can do, and that's where SEEK comes in and kind of fills some of those gaps and does some of the legwork, things like that.
So right now, we're kind of in the process of trying to renew our efforts after COVID, we're all kind of COVID fatigued, and bring the organizations and communities together. And we've got a meeting coming up this next month where we are having a facilitator come in and kind of help us through that process. Do you have any questions for us? I'm sure.
Yeah, Commissioner Sire.
Having been around at the beginning, and I did participate in the Horizon project and I don't know how I ended up in, though maybe we did some joint ones between, because I have recollections of having meetings in Klickitat as where I participated in Horizon groups, because we used to have circles or.
Oh, yes. Study
Group, right? And I was in
circles.
Lyle and in Klickitat. I don't know
Yes.
how I got in two, but I do
Yes,
recall that.
we did the 2 trainings. One was the study circles, and then following that was the Leadership Plenty program, which was a little more intense.
Right, I recall. So, but one of the things that came out of that was exactly that we needed, kind of identified that there was not a county-wide organization that could act as a fiscal agent for, and it came about with the grant dollars that were going to flow out of the foundation, the $10,000. It had to go somewhere, and that was right about the time we figured out that using the school districts and fire districts was not really okay. We did it for a long time and it was not a problem, but rules change and auditors were different. And so we had to comply. So my question is there, because there's certainly that need certainly still exists. We have many community organizations that are not, they're not government entities. They're a small group and they need a fiscal agent. I'm assuming that is still one of the core functions of SEEK, is to be that, to house, if they go after grant applications, or I'm assuming that's what this application, when it's, what the project is this, if I'm the, Little League or the whoever, and I'm going after a grant, I need somebody to be the person that is the sponsor. And I am assuming that is still a core function still,
Yes,
as far as what SEEK is about.
Right. And there's a lot of, we have had and still do have a lot of these smaller organizations that come to us because they have to have an EIN number.
Right.
And so, where do I get that? Well, that's kind of our function, and to helping them set up some banking that they can, because you need that when you go to the bank.
Right.
Insurance is increasingly becoming a problem.
There's
as well
another,
for a
right.
small entity to go through all the 501c3 stuff, and then on top of that, have to get some sort of insurance. So we recently had a bike park out in Trout Lake come to us.
Cave Creek, yes.
Yeah, to join so that they could get some liability insurance and help them out.
So where is the intersection between SEEK and MCED when it comes, and I, just for the record, I serve on the MCED board. But I always see, MCED is that, 5 county kind of big picture stuff. I've always saw SEEK as more the really community-based kind of organization. And I know we work well together as far as, but where's kind of the handoff? And because there could be stuff that comes in and maybe they come to SEEK and it really is a better fit, that MCED either has better programs, better staff resources. And I'm assuming that, from the MCED side, I'm hoping that things are happening, and vice versa, where when you're talking about, there's limited resources and we don't want to all be fighting over the same dollars. And so, does everybody play nice together?
Oh, yeah.
We can, you can.
I think, we always have looked at McKed, and I believe a lot of their staff members have looked at us as partners.
Okay.
And so when, when they're doing their strategic planning or working on the broadband or whatever, we've always had a seat at the table, and they're always really good about inviting us. And so we have input in what is happening.
Mhm. And it is really the micro level that would
Right.
fall through the cracks with McKed that Seek tries to pick up. And McKed sometimes doesn't have a great focus on Klickitat County.
Yeah, we've remarked as such. Off the.
Here, I'll turn my thing off.
Yeah, turn the mic off.
If I may, there's another leg to what we do, and that's asset building. And I would almost look at it as a kind of a project. I don't know how to really explain it any better than that. Is years ago, we discovered that the Department of Commerce gives grants to counties for working with asset building. Now, it's not how many assets you have. It's more about helping the communities. And we sort of got involved in that early on, and we receive about a $10,000 grant from the Department of Commerce each year, which just pretty much covers our expenses. And so we have to apply for that every year. And so that's another leg of what we do is work with the asset building part of it. And as Jonathan mentioned, one of the things that we do offer most of our projects is we try to help them with the insurance. If the bicycle place was not able to get insurance unless they came under our umbrella. So.
Commissioner Christopher.
Do you know the number on how much a group that affiliates with you, is there a set dollar number they can receive per year via grants? I was at Goldendale Community Sports this year, and they set up their own 501c3 because they didn't know you guys existed. And he was saying that he could only bring in 49,000 a year. He can't get over 50 under whatever they have on their 501c3. And I thought that was very weird. Does any of this ring in any kind of a bell? So I guess my next question, if a individual group formed somewhere in lieu of a private business grant for $100,000 and aligned with you guys and facilitated that grant, there's not a cap at 50. First question. Number two is, do you guys take some of that grant as processing fees or administrative fees or something like that?
Yes. Years ago, we discussed what to charge if people had a grant, if they're under our umbrella, and we came up with 5%, which we felt was very, very, very reasonable because I think at that time WSU was doing like 20-some%. We thought that was a little outrageous. So, but as far as the cap is concerned, we vet each project that comes in, and depending on what they're going after, the grant and stuff, we also have to be able to handle this as well. And so anyway, but we don't have a cap. We had the Lyle Activities Center had a block. Was it a block grant?
Yes.
A block grant. What was that? 250
or more.
It was something like 250,000. And sadly, we couldn't, because we had to be the applicant. The SEEK had to be the applicant. We couldn't charge anything. So we got nothing out of it other than the fun of doing it. And so,
I didn't know.
Yeah, disappointing.
And many grants are reimbursement grants. So having that cash flow to be able to float it, we can do that up to a certain point. But if grants are cash up front, there'd really be no cap.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of brings in my next question. Let's say you have a local philanthropist that wants to give 20 grand or 50 grand to a specific group, but he kind of wants the tax write-off of a 501c3. Would you guys be willing or able to facilitate that and then transfer it in that group's savings account essentially? How does that
Well,
work?
The answer is kind of yes, because what we do with each of our groups is they have their own account under our umbrella.
Okay.
We still have control over it. And so if somebody wanted to designate some money to a particular project, it goes into their account.
Okay.
So technically, you're almost acting like the auditor and treasurer act like for our juniors. You're just doing it for our micro businesses. And what I've seen from my time with Seek is when you have a great idea and a group of friends that want to come together and start something, but the 501c3 process, it's a 2-year process that costs a bunch of time and money. This is your interim step. So for 5% or whatever they charge, you can get your nonprofit status so that you can focus on growing your organization and your do good group. And then they take care of, acting like the checking account or the banker for you. And that works absolutely good. And then the goal is that they can grow and then become their own 501c3 in the future. And that's that asset building that they're talking about. And I think that asset building is great. And I think if you guys were able to do another leadership class, that would be absolutely wonderful. We could only use a few more Verns in the world today.
Careful now.
Only a few.
I said a few.
He doesn't want to have to.
Class
compete with
size
any.
must be limited. And the other thing is, having attended all of these Seek meetings, these are the people who are the true volunteers in our community. And I think Richard and I were always the youngest people there.
That's true.
By
That's true.
decades, it seems. And each of us have to take on the next generation and bring them under our wings and get them volunteering and get them on board, kicking, dragging, or screaming. And one of those professional development classes, I think, would be great.
Is there an app for that? Getting the young people involved.
I'm sure you're going to have to use an app if you want to even communicate with us.
I was gonna say, you realize that the volunteers in our community wear 5 hats as 5 different volunteers for 5 different organizations.
Or more.
Or more. And then there's a whole bunch that don't wear any hats. They just want to tell everybody how to do it.
Good point.
So we all know. So yeah, finding the volunteers isn't hard. Having them give up one hat to take on another is a different story.
Well, and that's true of our board, because our board all wears various hats.
Right.
And so that's kind of one of our strengths too, is that we have tentacles out there. But just to bring up something that Jake was talking about is
That's Commissioner Anderson.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Anderson. I'm sorry. Anyway, is we have had some successes. I mean, our whole idea is to help people, spring off in
Right.
their own direction. And we also serve Skamania County in some of our work that we do. And one of the success stories is we had a young lady come to us, had no idea how to start a childcare center. And she wanted to do it under the nonprofit focus, which we helped her do. And she spread her wings, got out on her own, did her own 501c3, and she just recently received over $1 million grant. And we feel really good about that because we were part of that process. So there's some success stories in the things that we've done. We've several of them have springboarded off into their own entity. So thank you for your support. And
I think, just a clarification, Commissioner Christopher and Linda, the donations and fundraisers are not subject to our 5%.
they are.
It's grants. I thought it was fundraisers weren't.
I think they're both.
Okay, so we take 5%.
Anything that they use our 501c3 EIN number
Okay, it's subject to the 5%.
is subject to the 5%.
5% is not that bad.
Are you gonna let us know how much you have of a war chest built up?
Oh, well, if we.
I'm-
That's a fair question.
It is a fair question. It's a little complicated though, because our projects each have their own account. And so then adding it all up and let's see, Seek itself has about $52,000. That's our line item.
Okay, that's your 5%, right? That's where you get your.
Accumulated over the last.
Yeah, it's like
couple of
our accumulated and our grant money, and some of that will go away, you know, as we pay our bills this year. And so that's what we have for our line item. Our projects have, you know, let's see, I'm sorry, I could have brought that along, but I didn't. And anyway, some have zero and some have as much as $15,000. They're all small line items that they have. And so anyway, and then we also have a trust fund that is for our senior living that is close to well, it depends on the stock market, but it's close to $100,000. And that is for using to help seniors. And we work with the senior services to provide some things. We're hoping that Isaiah's can help us with that. It's been a little bit of a gap the last couple of years because of COVID, not being able to get out and help people.
His presentations to us in the last couple of meetings have been outstanding, as I've told you guys. But we manage assets, total assets, 250, 300,000, something. We're in that ballpark. Our last.
Well, everything altogether is, I think, 264,000.
About.
Well,
About.
I
In
would say
cents,
that
about.
the past couple of years have been difficult for public businesses, private businesses, and nonprofits all together. And I'm very happy to see that you are all still here and still ticking and kicking. And you guys are still providing the services that you were founded to do. And I'm sorry to hear the passing of your members.
Oh, yes. And appreciate that. Thank you.
I-
Yes, we've all resigned a couple of times, but
I'm just kind of thinking, I mean, if you're looking for new members, you kind of have two choices. You either have the people you already know and you go poke them with cattle prod until they sign up. But if you're not getting anywhere on that front, I can't imagine that, you know, having a newspaper write up in the two papers might get you some phone calls. Granted, you have no idea who's calling, which you may not want, but I think there's a lot of people out there that don't even know you exist.
oh, absolutely. And that was one of our focuses that we have is marketing ourselves. And to go along with what you're saying is that it's really, really important that we have like-minded people on our board. That's why the training is so important, because you have to have that passion for community and the individuals. And so it isn't just anybody that just wants to volunteer. They have to have that passion. So anyway, so thank you. Do you have any other questions?
I did, if I can't, I'm kind of curious. Wow. I'm kind of curious, why did Seek have to be the applicant on the Delisle, the building project there?
Because the lease is in our name. Yeah,
That's unfortunate.
we could have a long discussion about that, but that's basically it. So
Okay.
anyway,
I was kind of curious. That caught my attention. I just assumed that you got your 5%, administrative fee for administering that, and you didn't. So that's unfortunate.
yeah.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for coming in person
Yep.
Yeah.
and getting to see the new building.
Oh,
Yes, go tour around.
We may
I'll give
do
you
that.
here's my card. It'll get you in about 2 rooms as far as.
I am parked at the electric car parking. Thank you.
Wow.
Is it working?
It's working fantastic. Thank
It
you.
is working?
Yes.
All right.
Hopefully you're getting a little revenue from a penny or two.
A penny or two.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Just as an aside, did a really amazing control job at the mental health meeting last week. You guys were held back really well.
It was hard to regain composure and keep, yeah.
Thank you very much. All right. Anybody want to move on to the consent agenda?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda with all 9 items.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with all 9 items. Any discussion? I'd just like to say, my questions were answered this morning, so I have no problems with it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we pay the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $161,498.00 and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $1,013,901.70 for the date ending May 31st, 2022.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to pay the bills. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We got a pay approval, pay estimate.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm assuming. FAMS number 1 and final for the Annex 1 asbestos abatement, the amount of $12,739.83, which includes sales tax of $888.83 to Summit Environmental. My motion is to approve and pay.
I would second that, as this shows we didn't just let the asbestos blow down the city road.
As some were assuming.
Yes.
All those in favor of paying the pay estimate number 1 and final for the Annex 1 asbestos abatement, please say aye.
All right.
Aye, motion carries. Okay. County clerk. This camp. Hi.
How are you guys?
Great.
Good. I don't have a lot. I just wanted to come in and just share some of the projects that the clerk's office has been able to accomplish. First off, our new employee, Kaylee Toll, started 2 weeks ago, and I'm excited to have her on board. She's doing great. And with our on-base system, which we have the on-base administrator, Nardos, I think you guys are more familiar now with the program and how it can benefit many departments in the county. Right after Nardos came on board, there was some issues that between our documents that link to the state system, and all of us that had Nardos were very grateful that she was there to be our buffer between the state and our local ITs and be able to facilitate the fix for that. And another thing, so a lot of these things have already helped save time with my staff. One of them was with the documents that come in, because we work so closely with the court system, they need to have the like a note for trial setting. That document has to get forwarded to court administration because they're the ones who have to get the case on the judge's docket. So we were always emailing those documents. So we'd have to take time after we scanned the document to then shoot an email to court administration and attach the document. So we have created workflows with the documents that are needed by court administration so that there's a folder established for Mary Jo to just go and grab whatever documents she needs. And it saves her time and it saves us time. We're not putting a bunch of documents through the email system that then are, part of the whole public record. So it has actually been a very clean process and is working well. And as we are going forward, we have, so these documents are based on their code that has been established for like a notice of appearance could be NOA as a code. And that's what we enter to get that document to attach to OnBase. So we are finding that we didn't grab all the codes to begin with. So as soon as I find a code that hasn't been added, I shoot an email and it's established within so that that document can then become a part of that workflow within a day or two. So super fast, and it's just very beneficial to have that. And does that all make sense? Okay. One of the other things we are working with is the digital archives. And that process has become more valuable with, we were utilizing a program called Clerk ePass, which didn't cost us anything. And our users who wanted copies of documents would go through Clerk ePass. They would charge them to use their system, like $4 per set of documents. And then they would pay us 50 cents for each page of the document that we put into their queue for the people to print. Unbeknownst to us, they went out of business. We got a notice 5 days before that, which has now created a bigger workload for my staff, because a lot of what was being done on the back end by that system is now being done by my staff. We have utilized our website, and we're keeping our website up to date as to how you can order documents from the clerk's office. So it's taken a little longer for my staff, but with digital archives, we're about 6 weeks out on completing all the processes and testing to get our documents moved over there. So when that happens, then I will change my website to how you order documents to put in digital archives email address, and they'll have a form that they have the person fill out, and they will supply the documents, which leaves me totally out of the loop of facilitating these document requests. And then the state.
Sorry, Renee, I'm just, if I may, I'm kind of curious, how many document requests do you get?
A lot.
A lot?
Yeah, people are always requesting documents, copies of, a lot of our title companies request documents from us. And they're actually set up on a different account. They keep track of their documents, and then they send us a check. But
And what do you charge as far as like if I want to?
it depends. The RCW allows us to charge 25 cents for electronic copies. And if you're at the counter and it's a document that's already in the file, you go through the file and say, I want a copy of this decree of dissolution, then we charge 50 cents. So once we do get the documents to digital archives, they will then send us a check quarterly. It'll be an ACH that'll go directly to the treasurer's office. That'll be established with the bar number that it needs to go into for copies for the clerk's office. So that's going to free up the time again. You know, another time saver that we'll have utilizing that. So we're getting the process got hung up because of illness at the digital archive side. So we haven't gotten that process along as quickly as I would have liked it, but we're dealing with other agencies and they all work from home and they have a different schedule. And so it's been tough to kind of get some of these things facilitated, but we're getting there. So we are in the early stages of processing our e-filing. Nardos has about 2 weeks worth of work that she needs to get undone on her side. And then the next part of it will be done by our IT. But that process, there's no timeline yet as to when that can be done. But I'm hoping by the end of the summer, we will be able to have that process up and running. So that's my update. Don't have anything else. If you guys have some questions.
Maybe back to so when digital archives and they're going to send you an ACH once a quarter, is your fee, is it still going to be the same?
25 cents.
Really?
Okay.
So you're going to do nothing and get 25 cents versus
I
now
know.
having the
Isn't
staff.
that
have to do
interesting?
all the work.
I'm super happy about it.
Yeah, seems like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, the one thing they can't do is certified copies. So what they'll do with, and a certified document is, of course, certified to be the original, and it has a hand stamp on it. And if you're doing like social security or retirement or things like that, you really have to have the hard copy. So they'll email us and we'll send those documents out based on the email process. And mail them. We usually will mail them and charge them a couple dollars for mailing, and have that process is pretty established, but. Yeah.
Good. All seems good then.
I'm glad to see that Nardos is working out and that you're improving workflows and your processes, and there's still more to go. And I'm
Oh,
excited
yes.
to see where it
Yeah.
leads.
Yeah, so, there's
Alright.
nothing
Yeah.
further.
Yeah,
Nothing,
nothing.
nothing, Dan?
They kind of
Okay,
covered it. I'm,
okay.
yeah, no, we're
Okay.
moving on. We're getting into the technology era. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
I like it.
I do too. All right, thank you for your
Madam
time.
Clerk. Director Carter, is there something you're?
I talked to Lee last week and she was gonna squeeze me in regarding an HR verbal.
I guess you're getting squeezed in right now.
Squeeze yourself.
Yeah.
Squeeze.
Well, so I let KC know, so I don't know if KC needs to be here as well, or.
Probably be a good idea.
Yeah. While we're waiting on that, anything
Online, but there's.
you have for board pending? Gentlemen, on the short side.
Only thing last Thursday, I got the opportunity, one of the perks of the job, which I will miss, was I did get the opportunity, I got toured down through Swale Canyon on the trail.
Oh, took her up.
I
Yeah,
drove by, I was gonna stop. You
Yeah.
got a driving tour. You
I got a
cheat-
driving
you
tour.
Cheater.
Yeah, no, I cheated all 12 miles. So it was really, it was cool by the,
I told her to make you walk, but. she didn't
I
listen
opened
to
the
me.
gates.
Oh, there you go.
So-
Well,
Cause I'm well versed in opening. Cause Andy was like, well, are you sure? Cause one of them was just a wire. That's like, oh, I grew up with those. That's nothing.
Did you get yelled at by anybody on the trail?
No, it was good. So
did you see anyone on the trail?
we did, there was one couple cause there was a couple cars. We started at the Harms Inn, and went down. And they were hiking back out. We stopped and talked to them, and they were from Portland. They said they were just out.
After you get yelled at, you can't have a truck in here.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a state parks
Right.
rig with a logo on the side of it. I felt pretty safe, so it was fine. But no, it was cool. If you ever get a chance to do that,
I've ridden my bike down it before.
have you? Yeah.
I said I turned it down because I probably will be on a bike in there within the month, so.
No.
Why spoil it by being in a truck?
No, it was, although it was exciting in a couple places there where it's like, I didn't know if the truck
It's gonna fit.
was
yeah.
gonna make it and was gonna fit.
Well, a couple.
But they were explaining, cause they did get that grant, cause they're gonna resurface the whole thing, that whole segment, the whole 12 miles, and then the
Bridges.
trestles,
Yep.
and they have got one of them they're gonna take out and just have a Ford.
Are they planning on doing that this year or they do next year?
I think it's next year now. I think it's originally, but it's just been delayed
And
delayed with permitting and different stuff.
Well, a lot of that was the environmental stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and they kind of indicated they ended up just giving.
Well, good afternoon. Come on forward.
Guy.
I mean, she went all the way to get you. The least you could do.
Yeah, so you gotta be on camera.
Can I turn this off though?
Nice try.
So I was requesting verbal approval to internally within my department advertise for an opening now. Our transportation coordinator has gone to work for emergency management as a 911 dispatcher. So I have
I
a
didn't realize
position
that's where
to fill.
that's coming from.
And
Okay, sorry.
so-
Sorry, I didn't mention it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have already,
He's
I
still
have an
somebody today
internal
too. It's okay.
candidate who has already
Oh, yeah.
trained in the position and in our system and is wants to transition to that. So our administrative assistant has been the backup and fill in for that position now. And so that's why I'm asking just to do an internal advertisement for that rather than spending dollars on that to advertise externally?
There's no issue. I mean, there's no issue with that. Can't you just promote from within?
But are you also asking then?
Then to
fill
backfill
the
that.
other
Well,
person?
and then that's the
Part two,
second request.
right.
Part two is to actually request to advertise to fill
The
the
vacancy that you're
The soon to be
administrative
open.
assistant
Yeah.
position. So those are both from the Goldendale office here.
So it would be
Where'd
the
you go?
internal posting for the one position, and then if
An
that
external.
gets
uh,
filled,
fly
then
in
go
for
to the
other.
external posting.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a yes.
Ben? I'm a yes on one and yes on two.
Okay.
Maybe no and yes. No. Let's see. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
All
Okay,
right.
that's,
Very good.
that's it.
More cross training. See?
We're cross trading. That's good. Yeah,
Thank you, ladies.
yeah, go hire some more good people for us.
Yeah.
We're gonna make Ben step over to here, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk to him last week and he said he turned it down.
He did 3 times.
They're offering him a job at the coast, housing, money, travel. He's staying here and going there 4 days and
You're getting called to the horns. Come sit down, sir.
he's like, uh-oh. Uh-oh.
He's like, there's nothing they can do to me now.
Well, everybody's heard in the entire building by now. And I think, and I speak for all of us, we would like to say thank you for all of the time that you've given to Klickitat County. You are a delight to be around. You are one of the happiest people. You brighten everyone's days and you literally save us from everything that happens around here. And we are going to miss you completely, sir.
Thank you, sirs.
I second all of that. And if you ever
Get tired of the rain.
get tired of the coast, even if it's only part-time, you know where to find us. We would love to have you back. We would love if you never left, but it is what it is, sir.
When is, so say, I mean, this decision is so tough for
I
me.
know.
And what is the absolute latest that I'm at a point of no return of coming back?
Never, as far as I'm concerned.
You always have a place in this family, sir.
I can only speak until December 31st of this year. Up after that, that's.
All right.
No,
It's like
Yeah,
if-
anytime. I
If they
mean,
fill your position, then we have to look for something or make something or tweak something or that brings up a whole nother thing, but yeah.
Okay, because I'm absolutely so torn, because like you guys said, you guys are part of my family too, and I've always enjoyed being around you guys. You guys have done an excellent job of taking care of me. And my whole family, you guys are an excellent group of people that it shows that you guys look out for the best interests of your employees and the taxpayers as well. And it's been an absolute honor to work under you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Of course, thank you.
Don't get tired of the rain too fast. But if you do, get back soon.
Okay, thanks you
All right.
guys.
Thank you.
There, thank you.
And as I was gonna say about how big, sometimes it's big shoes to fill, and then you see his feet and you're like, those are some really big shoes.
Those are gonna be big shoes to fill, yeah.
Thanks, you guys.
Have a good day.
Have a good.
All right, board pending. What do you gentlemen have?
Not a lot. I give you kind of went to the Goldendale Community Sports thing, talked to that guy, kind of goes into the Seek thing. They didn't know about Seek. They did a 501c3 so they can do fundraising. It's
Are they through it
local-
already?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It took them about 6 months and about $2,500 of their own money. Because they didn't know another option was out there. They're kind of a clean and sober group that's into the hip hop and it was very loud at their event. But they're into trying to give people alternative things to do than just sit around and play Nintendo and do drugs. So it's a good event, good people, and it's encouraging to see community reaching out to help other community. They also volunteered their time doing all the parking at the Home and Garden Show just because they wanted to. So just wanted to give them a thank you for doing what they do.
Okay.
Other than that, there will be a Goldendale spring cleanup outside city limits this Saturday for a couple of the main entrances.
Is that being advertised in the newspaper and on the radio and everything?
Yeah, and it's on our county website. Okay. So I don't know. We'll see how many people show up. It might just be me.
Well, sometimes you're enough.
Sometimes you got to lead the way.
Sometimes you do. Other than my trip down, my cheater trip down Swale Canyon, it was pretty quiet last week.
Yep, uneventful holiday week.
No holiday weekend. I did get my burning done, and I'm not going to tonight, so
If you
I'll
run
wait
home
till
quick.
spring or wait till
With-
winter.
With the wind out there,
So-
you might be able to get all the birdies done.
Yeah.
The neighbors too. I had my first meeting with the city of White Salmon, and this is regards to the court data, and they had some questions ahead of time, and so Jen and I met with them. And they had some questions like we had included in there. When we asked Jen to come up with the whole numbers, we included the defense costs for indigent defense, which the cities pay themselves. They are
They have
their own
Yep.
attorneys. So we had to subtract that out, which, honestly wasn't very much for the city of White Salmon. But it did change the numbers a little bit, and they had some other questions. Their main thing is they have no problem paying their fair share. They just still want to know why we're using the criminal filings versus the total number of filings, because that's a big discrepancy. And so they need more information on that. And
We're using the criminal versus total.
right,
That's where we're going.
which was what Prosecutor Cannell's advice was, because the criminals take so much more time than, just shuffling paperwork for a lot of the others. And so we said, well, come to us with any of your ideas, but the one thing is that we want to treat all the cities the same. So that we're not gonna do total for you and criminal for somebody else. We want it, and to me, it was, we know we've been subsidizing you guys a lot. We know we're still gonna subsidize you. We just need to get to a fair and equitable number. Criminal just seemed like a good place to start because that's defensible numbers. We know that those numbers they're easy to pull. It's something that Lee or Ibby could do in an afternoon. It doesn't take 3 days of, trying to figure out the numbers. So, and then hopefully I can meet with the other cities this week or next week, so we can get moving on how they feel. But I'd like to know if the city of White Salmon comes back with something. I don't need to have the meetings with the other ones until we hear what these guys are going to say.
What? We'll repeat that one.
Oh, so if the city of White Salmon comes back with, well, this is how we would like to calculate it. Here's our idea. But if I've already met with the city of Goldendale and Bingen, and they're like, we're fine using the criminal numbers. Well, now we're sitting there disagreeing, because I said, everybody's gonna be treated the same. On how
Right,
we
but
do
in
it.
that same regard, if you let White Salmon choose which way we do it, and then you go to the other two and say we're doing it that
Well,
way,
I-
they weren't involved in. the
I'm not gonna let them
decision-making
choose.
process.
I'm gonna at least let the other one see that this is the option.
Oh, and present the other two. This is how we proposed it. This is how White Salmon proposed it.
How do you like it? Otherwise, then it's a 3-way or a 4-way, and then you could have 4 different things flying around. I was like, I don't want to do it. Really, this shouldn't be so difficult, but money is always difficult. So we're getting there. It's just slow going, but we need to make some progress. And then the city is also going to hopefully talk to the West District Court judge for that anecdotal about how much time do you actually think gets spent on of your overall time on the city of White Salmon stuff versus county stuff. So, which, yeah, that's kind of the direction we're going there.
One question I have for you guys before I forget. I'm on the Washington Rural Insurance Pool. We're changing. they have a conference scheduled for 3 days before we change. Do I get permission not to go to that conference?
No, I think you should go and eat
Wave
and drink
goodbye.
everything.
I was
you
gonna say,
possibly
it's
can.
golf and free
I
money
know
to
you
play the
love
casino,
those-
but.
those, yeah,
um,
junkets.
well, that's the problem. I just found out that the new one, they have 3 conferences a year.
Oh.
Well, you could invite Rex to go in your place.
You could be an alternate, commissioner emeritus or something. I don't know.
The last hurrah.
The last hurrah.
Uh,
I want to write that down as no, I don't have to go now.
yeah, that's fine. That was my big update. You guys got a copy of the application and all the support materials for the $195 million bridge grant proposal. We'll see how that goes. And hopefully we can get in and see all the legislators in DC in July, and more importantly, the Department of Transportation staff. Okay.
Did you already set the date for that July going back there?
It's July 18th through the 20th.
Okay, I just make sure it's on the calendar. So the rest of us can see you're not here.
Yeah, and then I think I'm probably gonna take off June 19th through sometime the next week. And I don't know if I'll be within self-service to attend the meeting on the 21st. So you might be here without me.
That only works if your name goes on the calendar before my name.
Well, I just let you know my name's now
He's
there.
putting it on there right now. Or if you just don't show up.
Yeah, or too bad. It's my one trip a year. Big trip.
If you guys would like to have a discussion regarding removal.
I don't need one myself.
I'm
Either of you
well-versed,
two need
but-
one. I,
Could you direct the chief appraiser to speak with those individuals who brought it up? For
that's how I
education?
would do it. It's out of my wheelhouse. I don't want to facilitate the conversation because I don't know that it will help.
Is Prosecutor Cannell on Zoom?
Yeah, I don't have anything for an update this week.
Okay, and nothing for executive. All right, is there anything else for the good of the order, gentlemen?
Make a note.
It's like way early.
Yeah, I didn't think this was gonna be.
We didn't have any fires to put out today.
Well,
No,
must be the lovely weather.
take it. Take it when you can get it.
Take it.
All right, any,
Motion.
I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners. We do not have a workshop scheduled for later this week.
I would second the motion.
There's been a motion and a second to adjourn. We will see everyone next week. Thank you all who signed in and listened to how government is done here in Klickitat County. Have a great day.
Aye.
All right.